Welcome to another edition of the Nine Summoning Insight presented by AT&T. We're here. We're going to talk to Nisqy and Zven in a little bit about their whole season and about Cloud9's dominance. And I guess about the possibility that MSI might not be happening now, according to the GAF, who did release the intimation that it might not be. So excited.
Is he really a credible source, though? Is he actually a website like, I don't know, Horizon, world famous, renowned name? Like, doesn't it go like Dan Rather, Horizon? What's going on with that shit on Reddit? But yeah, whatever. We'll leave that to one side, I guess. Because I will point out, by the way, this is not even a joke. If you criticize the Reddit mods on League of Legends videos, they do remove those also from Reddit. That's how ridiculous they are. So we'll just leave that.
What's going on?
That is just... You didn't see where that happened?
No,
Travis literally revealed some news about Doublelift and the fact that he was going to potentially go somewhere else, and the Reddit mods literally just deleted it and said that he wasn't a credible source and that it had to come from ESPN or Horizon.
I mean, he's not a credible source, so I'm not
He's
sure
way more credible than Horizon. That's one human person who just lives in Korea, mate. So he actually knows the person.
It's okay, Thorin. You know what? The Riot, in their infinite wisdom, decided to give the Valorant sub over to those mods. So definitely not
those happy accidents.
Yeah, those same people who were NDA'd and working with the company that suddenly ended up in charge of a new subreddit. Yeah, really interesting stuff. I actually am surprised Richard Lewis hasn't been banned over on the Valorant sub yet.
No, they'll probably figure it out sooner or later.
In before this video now gets taken down from the League of Legends subreddit, simply for talking about what's happening and not even making an opinionated statement about it. Anything you want to talk about this week? I'm not sure. I would have to guess that our guests did not watch the Fnatic G2 final, just because it was literally the same day as their final. So unless they went back and watched it, which we can get into a little bit more in depth, but obviously that's not going to be the focus of our show, guys. So we'll have to return to the G2 Fnatic thing at a later date, unless we're lucky and they watched it. Do you have any initial impressions of that final? Obviously, it was a pretty big upset considering what we had seen so far, but G2 is one of those teams where once they get their shit together, they're always dangerous.
Well, and also, if you watched the rest of the split, I think the one area most people wouldn't have guessed there would be any kind of an advantage for G2 was actually in the top. Whipple actually looked like he was having a really, really tough time in this whole series. He looked awesome the whole split, I thought.
I don't even know what was going on with Whippo a lot of the time, because especially let me pull up the list of games. When I was watching it, it was pretty wild to see that it was game 2. So they had very limited engage, right? And it's just the way Fnatic was team fighting around Azir, Zac, Jarvan, was they were trying to fight in all of these choke points around objectives. And then Whippo, who has the only AoE CC really on the team, was just hitting one person with his Ornn ult and ulting very early, and then we get into game 3 and he's just solo dying in lane as Zac. It was a pretty horrific performance from him. So I have to believe that that's a one-off considering how good he was for most of the season, but it was really, really weird.
Oh, as a team generally, they just collapsed as well. So I don't know what the fuck you say about that. The problem with that is that can't just be game related. There's no way G2 is actually that much better in the game. I mean, we've seen for the rest of the split, it's just not the case. So
yeah, I agree.
That looks like some sort of massive psychological collapse to me.
Yeah, it's very interesting, what could have caused it too. And a lot of people will, the tragic thing about this, Thorin, is we've spent the last couple of weeks talking about how the Caps AD carry situation is going. And people will try and take this final and use it as some sort of excuse that he was supposed to do better in this, or that he was actually good enough in this final to maintain his AD carry status. But he had a ton of peel for him, and Perks played awesome on some of these champs like the Azir in order to provide him that protection. They were running poke comps with the Corki a lot of the time. So I think that this was... And they also just sort of let him have, the Kog'Maw and the Aphelios and play really far back. And moreover, Fnatic, again, Whippo, who was playing Ornn And the Zach really wasn't ever getting back to him or pressuring him at all. So I think this is kind of like a false positive for them on that. I still don't think that that's going to be the right move going forward.
No, that angle was overblown anyway. Like, people are always looking for the one piece of contrary evidence to suggest their narrative is right on that one. It's like, we've had enough of the season. We don't need one match to do it.
Yeah.
He certainly wasn't terrible. Obviously, he was good in the final, but he wasn't the best AD carry in Europe even now.
Yeah. All I would say is that if you think, you must also believe that Fnatic is trash if you believe that Caps should play AD carry, because you're literally only using this one series as a sample size. And one of them was a massive underperformance, and one of them was a massive, not massive, a slight, I would say, overperformance.
The other thing is that I don't know where you go from here if you're Fnatic, because like, you've already got the roster. You've got awesome players. Every piece is there. You even actually did look better than G2 right until the very final game. Who the fuck knows where they go from here? I feel like they're in big trouble in that sense. Like, there's no obvious correction, is there? Like, I wouldn't change any players. All looks awesome until that match.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be from a psychological or support staff side at that point in time. There must have been something that happened that we just simply don't know about that caused this, because it was a little too bizarre. And certainly this was a very winnable series for G2, and no one was counting them out, considering the ceiling that we know they have and their performance in the past. And if anything, they were underperforming in parts of playoffs, especially relative to how well and how strong they ended their regular season. But this was, I mean, while G2 could have won, I don't think anybody expected it to be a 3-0, and especially a particularly dominant 3-0. And unfortunately, we got two bad finals this week, which, you know, credit to Riot to moving to a double elimination bracket. It does make dominant finals less likely to happen, but obviously you can still fluke your way into 2 3-0s in the first, like, 2 double elimination brackets that we've run simultaneously in LCS and LEC. So unfortunately, it doesn't always work like that. It does make, however, the bracket situation more dominant, right? It really shows that you deserve that title if you're able to fight your way through and then come in to that double elimination setup and then win 3-0 in a final.
I mean, I think it's definitely hard. And obviously the fact that, like, that's the part people don't seem to realize, is what you give up in terms of, like, sheer excitement, you also gain in terms of actually getting a proper gauge on how good the teams were.
Yes.
Like, if in theory, by that logic, by definition, the most exciting match would be a best of one. That's it. By definition, you could not make it more exciting than a best of one, where anything could happen and this one game decides the entire thing. But who would want a tournament run that way? Not many people. So you're already agreeing we're not doing it just for sheer excitement. We're also trying to figure out, like, who's the best team, give teams chance to work inside the server. Like, one thing I like about Double Elim didn't end up being relevant here because unfortunately G2 and Fnatic never met in the upper bracket final. And then obviously there was no big rematch of EG and Cloud9, so you never really got, like, the rematches. But if we would have had a rematch in the future splits where that happens, I think that's where you could get something really interesting to happen. Maybe someone comes up with some genius draft strategy they never used the first time, or just stylistically they figure out the other team. That'll happen sooner or later, and we'll get one of those awesome matches.
You know,
have to be in the future.
Back when the quarterfinals at Worlds were best of threes, people at Riot literally told me that the reason why they were best of threes when I asked why they weren't best of fives is because they said it gave a better chance of an upset. That is a reason. That is literally how they were designing tournaments. And, you know, honestly, we still don't have double limit Worlds, which is a giant tragedy because so many of the times at Worlds, the best matches have happened in the semifinals. And I just want to watch a super good World Finals, which has happened, what, like once?
Maybe once or twice.
Once in 10 years, we've had a good final. It's actually embarrassing. And, you know, it's bad for Riot, too, because that's the match with the most eyeballs on it. So you want it to go to that full 5 maps. You really want those numbers there. You really want that value, that hype, that excitement, especially when they do such a good job of doing all of the pomp around Worlds. Like, honestly, this year's Worlds, with the holograms and everything, that was one of the most amazing stage performances I have ever seen. It was incredible what they were able to do with the musical performance and with all the graphics and everything like that. It's not even, I don't even like that kind of music, and I thought it was amazing. So just can you please try and fix that format so that we actually have that scenario where we get a good final? If you're going to put all this effort into making these incredible visual and audio spectacles, can we please have the games at that quality too? It's a pretty simple request in my mind. All right. Do you want to get our guests on now? I do want to talk about format a little bit more in terms of, because I've had so many tweets from people because I got roped into this Twitter chain with Fruskerin where she's trying to explain to idiots why we don't have bracket resets in MOBAs for double elimination. So I do want to hear the players' opinions about that, considering they just went through this bracket and what a bracket reset would have meant to them. But we'll wait for Nisqy and Zven's thoughts on that issue, considering they're the ones actually playing the games. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll bring them on, and we'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back. Cloud Connections, presented by AT&T. Our guest segment here, which is like 90% of the show. We've got Zven. We've got Nisqy. We've got a random Thorin Twitter box that I forgot to take away, and then I'll add this one, so it's correct. Welcome. Congrats on your win.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming on the show. I know you guys had a lot of vacation plans, such as going home, that you can't do now. So you've got nothing but time to come on the show every week, right?
Yep.
Great. So let's start off with your... We talked a little bit to Licorice about how you guys had set up the Dota 2 house, or the future Dota 2 house, as sort of your environment for playing professional games, trying to separate yourselves from your normal scrim environment to kind of get yourself into that a different place mentally. How did that work for you?
I think it worked really well. We had some problems in the first week. It was week 8, I think, that we played from our scrim room. And some people said that they were feeling too comfortable and they weren't really, not taking it serious, but they were just not in the same zone as they usually are for games that actually matter. So we tried playing from the Dota house, or the future Dota house, and having like a setup where you have like everything, like you go there, you plug in your gear, you have hand warmers and different bottles and all this kind of stuff, and it puts you in the zone. And I think it helped everyone focus more, and it made me focus more at least. And I think it worked wonders for us to have like that kind of stage setting for ourselves. So I think it was a great idea by management and staff to set up the house like that.
Yeah, true. I have nothing else to add.
So,
by the way, Nisqy is actually wearing a hoodie. I know it looks like he's wearing like a fucking like robe, and he's just in like he's just in his penthouse suite now.
No.
He is actually wearing a hoodie. That is, he's not that swagged out.
So I've done a lot of interviews with you guys this season, and there were a lot of narratives coming in, especially surrounding what happens when you replace Svenskeren now that he was MVP, and now, of course, Blabber has won MVP. Sorry, Nisqy and Zven, I guess.
Fine.
You're salty. I know you.
I'm salty, for sure.
Nisqy's definitely salty. He was very salty that he didn't get one of those statues for a while.
Nisqy should be salty. Essentially, this guy just literally had to sit back while someone awarded his fucking puppet like best singing voice of the year. And he's one of the best ventriloquists in the world. And he doesn't even get the credit. That's not even the puppet singing. It's just going wherever he tells it.
Isn't the ventriloquist?
You can never get any credit, Nisqy.
Isn't the puppet winning just a proof of the mastery?
It is
of using that puppet in a way.
Exactly. Obviously, in some ways, this is like the LCS perks, except instead of making all the other teams that players in his team good, he only makes the jungler good. But in any of that alone makes him a fucking magician, mate. Like, no one's ever done that. Holy shit, Bjugsen's still just like, can I take some notes? What do you do? Oh, listen to them. Right, okay. Take.
So does that mean that Nisqy and Blabber will be switching positions for next split?
I mean, I told already everyone that if I want an MVP, I guess I have to go jungle, because
honestly, your Gragas is pretty good.
My Gragas is pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. So maybe I need to play some jungle games during the season.
Make it harder on yourself in general. All right.
Sven, one thing I've never heard anyone talk about, right? Because like everyone I notice has kind of just put the whole like TSM storyline in the background now. Like whatever, it's past you in Cloud9, but it must be pretty satisfying to actually win and become the first person to win LCS at LEC. I mean, whatever, we're going to say LCS was LEC to make it not complicated. The first person to do that, especially bearing in mind, in theory, everyone would say it never happened once you left TSM because that was supposed to be your chance there. So it's got to be pretty pretty vindicating in some level.
Yeah, I mean, it feels pretty fucking good. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like I finally accomplished what I came here for 2.5 years ago with Mitty, and I feel like completion in that sense that this is the first step towards the whole reason I came here. Was to new challenges and new experiences, and I'm so happy that I finally accomplished this. And to do it in the first split with Cloud9 is amazing, and this team is just a really great fit for me. So I feel so fucking good about that, and I'm so happy for the first time in a while. I feel really just happy in general to be here. So yeah, super good feeling right now about everything.
With all the success early on in your career and winning EULCS/LEC, whatever you want to call it, was it surprising to you that it actually took you longer to win in the retirement region?
Yeah, I thought I was gonna come to NA and shit on everyone with Mitty, and I thought like, oh, we have Bjergsen, we have Hansard, these guys are pretty good, right? They're winning every title in their region. I thought we were gonna go to NA and we were gonna shit on everyone, and we were just gonna stack trophies basically, right, and go to Worlds, and then we'll take them from there, right? But that didn't happen, and I was frustrated for a while, and I was not sure if it was me that was the issue or something else, and I wanted changes, and I wanted different. I wanted to leave after 2018, right? But that's already public anyway, so I was frustrated for a long time about what happened and how I wasn't winning, and it made it worse that I had this kind of idea that I was gonna come here and win everything, and then when I didn't win, it made it worse for me, right? I started like thinking like, fuck, why am I not winning? What's going on? Like I'm wasting my fucking time here, right? If I'm not stacking trophies every fucking split. So I felt a bit, I don't know, stressed out, I suppose, in a way. And now that I have this one trophy, be it online or whatever, it feels like the burden is off my shoulders in a way. I feel like complete almost, I would say. So I feel so good right now. And I
See,
can only...
Monty, this is how you know that Zven was actually a real champion in a real region with real competition, is that he's the only one who's like, everyone else is like, yeah, we won the LCS, like Cloud9 didn't do this since 2014. He's like, still online though, isn't it? So, the next one will be offline, boys. We'll get that one. Like,
I do think C9 would have won this split anyways if it wasn't online, because everyone else is shit right now. But
I think that's
still not as cool though, is it? Like, come on, it's not as cool.
Yeah, I agree. I felt like when we won the last game, I wasn't even like in the fight. I died one shot, I think, in the fight. So I was just watching it happen 3-0. I'm like, this isn't actually like that hype. Whereas standing up in front of a crowd will be like a really fulfilling moment where I'm like, okay, I finally did it. Like now I'm happy. So it still counts in my mind, and I'm still happy about it. But I do want to win somewhere as well, to win in front of a crowd, and really feel that complete feeling. So
problem is, it's just not the same atmosphere. Like apparently Reckless did actually sit and just cry for 20 minutes in front of his laptop, but no one saw because he was just at home. So no, there's no crowd there. Sorry.
Or as we call it, another day in the life of Reckless.
Listen, guys, it wouldn't be the same if we didn't bag on Reckless still like 6 years later.
It's good. It's all good. You gotta fit that in.
I actually figured out the fundamental problem with imports in NA. You can only have one Danish player on a team to get results. If you go over one Danish player, the results start plummeting immediately.
Shit.
See, that was your problem.
They have like diminishing returns, or what? Is that what you're telling me?
No, you just peak at one, and then it's not diminishing returns. There are no returns. It just goes downhill really fast after that. Just Svenskeren, you're doing pretty well there. Just Bjergsen, maybe win some titles. Bjergsen and Zven, fuck no. So you should be really glad they got rid of Svenskeren. Otherwise, this would have been a disaster, Zven.
Broxan Jensen, no. Shit.
Actually, holy shit.
I'm right. I'm right. I'm actually right. More than one Dane equals terrible results. It's a very weird thing we just figured out here on SI. All right, so moving on. When you guys were starting the season, like going all the way back to the beginning, and your boot camp that you had in Korea in January, how fast did this team come together, and like how apparent was it that you were going to be better than everyone else in America? When did you figure that one out?
I mean, I don't think we knew that we were this good before we came to NA, because like back in Korea, we just scrimmed LCK teams or like challenger teams or whatever, and we didn't play any NA teams, right? So we were like, are we actually good, or the teams we scrim just bad, And then I remember we scrimmed CLG, and I think we like 6-0'd them with like just like in 15 minutes straight. It was just kind of stomps, and I was like,
I bet back then that seemed really impressive.
yeah, I was like, whoa, you know, like
Doesn't
yeah,
actually
like,
sound as cool
yeah,
now,
yeah,
Nisqy.
yeah.
I know back then it sounded awesome. Yeah, I agree. That
they have
was so
crowd,
good.
okay, they're
Yeah,
just
exactly.
pretty good. And then we come back to NA, and it's like, we kind of just shit stomp everyone. And it's like, I guess everyone's just shit, you know, and we're just this good. So
Well, that's the
Yeah.
process, Monty. There you go.
To
What
be
he did
fair-
was
to be
he played the
fair-
Korean teams. He said, "Are they just bad, or is it us?" And then he came to NA. They played CLG. They went, "Is CLG just bad? Oh, they are, but also everyone else is bad." Right? Okay.
I mean,
That's the short version of that story.
The key is the Korean teams are also bad. So
Apparently,
how
yeah.
could you have known? You just it was all false positives.
Also, why is Nisqy so humble? Why didn't he just go, "Wow, are we really good now?" He goes, "Nah, everyone else just sucks like me." What? Like, why didn't you get more confident from that? Like, you go, "We're really awesome, like Korean teams, the best in the world."
When Licorice was on here, we talked a lot about you and Doinby. When you saw Doinby at Worlds, because your style did not used to be this way, what did you do to make your play so much different than it used to be and so much more prioritized around working with the jungler and helping out the side lanes?
I mean, for me, the thing is that usually when you scrim good teams, it's like the way the enemy team wins the game is usually either like better mechanically or like they have better macro or whatever. But like when we scrim FPX, it was like literally every wave on mid that they'd push, they'd just dive a side lane. Or like Zven scrim would stay in the jungle or whatever to their mid jungle prio. So I was like, this is so unfair, you know, like the way they play against me is so unfair. I'm playing kind of 1v2 against Tian and Doinby, and they just push together, they move, I cannot do anything about it. So I was like, I want to play like that, you know? I want enemies to do nothing about it and just let me move. And yeah, that's basically it.
What were the things you learned? Was it the coordination that you had to pick up with Blabber, or is there a way you had to play your matchups in order to get pressure and then coordinate with Blabber? Like, what were the key lessons that you learned about?
I mean, first he had to get Sven kicked, but after that, it was just smooth sailing from now on out, I think. So.
I mean, the first thing I focused on is like how he plays with Tian, just like on what waves he pushes, or like how they actually just kind of communicate in a way. Like that's what I was actually trying to guess when I was watching the pro view. And then also just the way he plays his champions is just way different than other. Where like, for example, I was trying to play Rumble, and then when I was playing Rumble myself, I looked really bad on it. And then when I saw his Rumble, I saw what he does, and then I'm like, okay, I guess this is how you play it, you know. And then I kind of started to play like him in a way, or like I learned from him, and then my Rumble looked good, and I was like, okay, I guess I will just keep watching what he does, you know, and just kind of put it in my playstyle, and yeah, now I can play the pushing mids, which feels good, I guess.
You know, Monty, there's actually been quite a lot of pro players that we've had on talk shows. That's one of the things about ProView that has changed the game, is that if they actually have a player that they're interested in, they just go and watch his whole laning phase, what he does in all the trades, and like I feel like we've gotten way better analysis from players.
Of course. I mean, think
as
about
opposed to trying to figure out from fucking VOD where you're not even watching them half the time. You know,
it was incredibly frustrating back in the day, because if you wanted to watch a professional player, you literally couldn't watch the entire game. Like, it's, in fact, if there was nothing going on in their lane and they were just doing normal trading, it was impossible to learn, because it would just follow the jungler or the mid roams around the map. And so it was really, really hard to get a sense of, unless you were a professional player yourself or talking directly to the pro players about how those trade patterns worked, it was incredibly hard for you to learn about that. You know, it's one of the reasons why I focused so heavily on macro in the early days, because I simply didn't have access beyond directly talking to the pros about that information. So it was really, really hard to deduce that from film. So I think it's great that it's actually, we've managed to come up. And, you know, I hadn't thought about this before, but that's actually probably one of the reasons why internationally players have gotten more competitive, because beforehand it was more difficult. You had to go to op.gg or whatever to like download replays of these players in solo queue. But if you have a less challenging solo queue, then you're never going to hit the top players or really see those kind of interactions, especially in the laning phase in the 1v1s. But now that you can watch all the pro view replays from games all around the world, in addition to the solo queue replays, I bet it's a lot easier now for you to sort of catch up, even if you're not in a region that has the best solo queue like NA. Have you guys found that that's true?
Yeah, I agree. I think ProView helped a lot of pros improve because you can watch lane phase directly and you can just watch exactly what you want to watch and then leave, and you can watch the players you want to watch. So I spent a lot of time in my Korean bootcamp in my queue times just watching the lane phases of people at Worlds. I mean, obviously it was Stark Heise almost every single game, but you really get to see who plays the matchup well and who doesn't, and why they don't play it well, and how the difference in players is really huge. So I think I learned so much from these players just watching their games and their point of views, and also see how they play with their support, because some supports play a lot worse in lane than others, and I think some teams players play really well on their own. I just feel like the pro view really helped me improve, at least if you watched for certain things. Like just watching it mindlessly doesn't help you, but watching the first 10 minutes of lane phase can really improve your laning in a specific matchup a lot. So I think pro view definitely helped me, at least.
Yeah, I mean, same. I was going to be rookie, just every mid, every game, just casually.
Do you think that I want to go back and talk about just training in general, because we brought this up with Licorice, where there have been so many excuses from NA players, and I know you guys are not NA players, you're just players that exist in NA.
Listen, at this point in time, there's going to be about 7 people from NA in LCS, so they just are NA players at this point, Monty. Until they put that big fucking wallet down, they're NA players for now.
But one of the things that has always been stated about NA, and this goes into the pro view conversation as well, where it's a lot easier for you to get the information that you need in order to compete at a world-class level, even if you're not directly experiencing it yourself. There's always been these excuses with NA, such as, oh, the solo queue isn't as good, therefore we can't perform, or our competition isn't as good, therefore we can't perform. And it's been really interesting to see you guys have the most dominant LCS split ever, in spite of the fact that your competition has been shit, to be honest. Like, you guys continue to look, good enough.
I know what you meant by that, Monty.
World
like
level.
you meant by that the fact that they're so good, but the way you phrased that actually made perfect sense. That they'd have the most dominant split ever if their competition is shit. But I know you meant
it's both.
Like,
though.
it's impressive that they were able to keep their level up. Yes,
yeah. But usually in the past, even when we have seen dominant teams, so let me make a comparison. When I saw in 2013 the Quantic team that became the original Cloud9 roster, and I said at the time, before they had competed in LCS, that they were the best team in NA because they were actually playing real strategies, I could still tell that this is not a team that's going to compete at a high international level. With you guys, I actually believe that you could. Like, you have that opportunity. So you're not only dominating people, but you are appearing as though you are, in fact, one of the best teams in the world, like top 5. So in that scenario, what do you think about this year for you guys that has made that possible, whereas we've never really seen that, except for maybe we've talked about it before, like 2016 TSM maybe, but definitely not to this degree?
Yeah, go.
Okay, I mean, I think even though solo queue is shit, and I'm the biggest hater of the solo queue, I also played the most of any pro, I'm pretty sure. And I try my hardest to make the games useful. I beg people, please ban Talon and Pyke mid and Katarina so I can play a real game against real champions that matter. I think a lot of NA pros have the mentality that, oh, solo queue sucks, so I'm not going to play it. And then I'm going to make it worse because I'm not going to play against rookies or like solo queue players, and they won't improve by playing against me because I'm not playing it at all, right? And a lot of people are just hard stuck in like Diamond 1 or Diamond 4,
Dude,
I don't even
people
know.
play Katarina mid in NA solo queue in 2020.
Yeah, I mean,
holy
like,
shit, what?
In Challenger solo queue?
I mean,
What?
it's just like, so in NA, there's a lot of one tricks, right? And that's fine. Some people play Rumble mid. This is one guy can play Rumble mid. That's fine. Some Shen one trick top. That's fine. But then the ones that play Talon top Ignite, Tryndamere top, Darius top, Ilaoi mid, it's just a time waste for me, right? To play against this. Pyke mid. It's not a meta anymore, guys. It's 2020 now. It makes the games useless. So I beg people, please ban these champions so I can play against like Uber champs like Aurelia mid or Rumble, whatever, right? So NA pros have this thing where like, yeah, solo queue sucks, it's high ping, it's useless games, I'm just gonna not play at all. And then the solo queue players won't play against me, they won't improve against me, they won't get better because I'm not playing at all. Then you don't make the server better, and it's like a cycle, I guess, of bad things, and it's like a bad circle. But with that said, I think Korean Bootcamp really helped, and everyone on our team does play solo queue, a fair amount, I would say. And I think if you have in a region where you play 5 games of scrims a day, you have to find extra ways to improve. And solo queue, even though it's not very great, it's still a decent source for mechanical practice, even if you play on higher ping than everyone else. And I think pros and they don't take it as serious anymore, and them not playing it and taking it not serious is part of the problem that makes it worse every time. It's like a cycle, right? So yeah, I think pros and are a bit complacent regarding solo queue, and they could do their part in making the server better if they wanted to, but they aren't. And by being stuck in diamond or low master, whatever, your whole life, you don't play against good players because those players don't play against you. So the circle continues, right? But with that said, I think Aquarium Bootcamp really helped us start off ahead of everyone else, and then just NA has a weak year, made us really dominant. Yeah, I think that's the most of it. And I also think this meta fits our team really, really well, and we figured out how to play this meta well. I think we kind of invented the 5-minute Drake, push bot, go Herald, and teams in NA were really slow at catching up to this strategy, even though it's really obvious and really easy to just plug and play the strategy.
You guys kill me with that strat, by the way, because the one question I have, well, actually, that's not true. There are two questions I have about you guys internationally, which is obviously like your lanes keeping up, which, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
The other question I have is literally what you guys do is you go get Drake. You push, you get Drake and then you swap top at 8 minutes, and you take Herald, and you do that almost every single game. And you know what? No one ever fucking stops you ever, or does anything. It's like they just want to give up objectives on both sides of the map, which I find puzzling because you know exactly when you guys are going to recall, and if you just don't react to the Drake play and then use the recall timing to kill the Herald, if you're the other team, you could just do it. So what is going on with these teams like being unable to read this play that you and Vulcan do?
I mean, I don't know. I'm not playing their team, I'm not their teams, but I think NA teams in general are very not stubborn, but like slow to adapt when something is going wrong in their games. And we just do the same thing. Pick early game champions in bot, mid, and jungle. Start Drake at 5 minutes. If they fight us, we win. If not, we just take it for free. We win bot, and it's still anyways. We push out, walk up, start the Herald, and teams are just like not doing anything. They aren't freezing waves. They aren't pushing the tower. They aren't swapping in time to defend. And often they just do like nothing. They just like push away bot. They base themselves. Come top to Herald, and then they're too late. We have full control of the Herald.
I know.
It's free, and they're like, oh, it's gone. And then they're still here, so they didn't even trade plate spot or anything. They just gave it for free while swapping as well, and now they're still losing 2v2 top and mid jungle. So I don't know.
And then you take the Herald, and then you use it mid to cover the second Drake spawn, and then you go take that, and then all of a sudden you're up 2 Drakes at like 12 minutes, and you can force Soul at like 22.
Yeah, and usually someone has died at this point, someone got caught somewhere in their team or died to a gank or whatever, because we have good early game champions, and then the game is like, oh, this is a slow choke now, and in 22 minutes we have a Soul that sometimes wins the game solo if it's like a Ocean Soul or whatever. We saw that in our FlyQuest series. We had 2 Ocean Souls that series. I don't know. And teams are just slow to adapt, and it took us weeks before someone did something. We were like, oh, maybe in this case our swap is bad. They had like a global ult or a gangplank ult or a rumble ult, something like that, and we're like, oh, this thing we're doing every game isn't always the best play. So it took a long time for any teams to adapt to this playstyle, and they were like, oh, we're playing Senna, but we can't push towers or waves. So what the fuck's up with that, And teams didn't realize that Aphelios can one-shot towers with his red gun together with his white gun, right? Like the combination of Severum and Chakrams or whatever it's called. So teams didn't realize that until like week 4 or 5 when teams started not swapping and hitting that tower with Aphelios, or Senna couldn't actually push towers, so they swapped earlier and matched our timings and fought us 2v2, right? Or 4v4 at Herald. So, and it's just a slow region to adapt to new strategies, I think. And it's a little bit of stubbornness, I guess, and a little bit of hard luck in the past strategies, I suppose. Where in the past, going Herald at 10 minutes wasn't that good of a strategy always. So,
yeah. I think
that actually was what they said in the actual team meeting there. They just went like, what the fuck? We can't push towers. What the fuck is that? And that's just the end of the team meeting, apparently. Like, there's no solution to that.
Yeah, oh, I'm playing Senna. I can't watch the towers anymore. What the fuck? I don't know damage towers and waves. What is this shit champ, Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I think also one thing that I think is really crazy to me, like here in NA at least, is like, for example, here if I pick Zoe, like people pick like Victor, and like in Europe, if someone picks Zoe, then immediately like their whole comp is like Braum, Gragas, Yasuo,
course.
Ornn, like Sejuani jungle, whatever. And like I feel like people don't know how to draft in NA, at least. Because like every time we draft, we're like, okay guys, if they do this, it's really bad for us, but we were like gonna adapt and stuff, but then we go on stage and it's like they ban 2 of their own champions, they pick 3 counter-pick lanes or whatever. It's like their mid laner doesn't play Syndra, Kiana, Yasuo, so I can first pick Zoe, like all these things is like really crazy to me.
By the way, I do want to talk about the draft in this series because I thought FlyQuest's bans were pretty weird. Do you guys have the bans up right now? Like they were banning like Senna, Tom Kench, and Zoe, which I sort of understand because you guys in previous rounds of the playoffs had just picked Zoe every game and dumpstered people. But I feel like what you're saying is true, that you just draft around that instead of necessarily banning the Zoe. And the Nautilus bans as well were just very odd to me. Like, why ban Tom Kench in this scenario? It's not like that's the only champ Vulcan can play. Vulcan has an incredibly diverse pool. It's not like Zven needs to be saved. He's not Caps, right? So Zven has very good positioning. So I don't really get. Also, the combination of banning Senna and Tom Kench, because you only really need to ban one of them, I feel like, and that would be the Senna most likely, because you're not like you're afraid of the Tom Kench when he gets super farmed off of the Senna build. So what was your reaction to seeing these bans come in the first rotation?
So we knew they were going to ban Senna on both sides because they did the whole playoffs and they don't play Senna. And in scrims, they were giving us Senna and they were getting shit on some games. So, it's true. You can compare Nisqy. And then the Tom ban, I think, is fine on when we're red side and they're blue because we can counter pick Tom into like certain things and we can ban Blitzcrank, which is against only counter. But the Tom ban on red side in game 1, for example, is, in my opinion, useless because we would never even pick it anyways. Because
especially
we don't want to
because
play...
they last picked Blitzcrank anyway, so they they weren't going to early pick it.
Yeah, we wouldn't even pick Tom blind on 2-3 or whatever on blue side because there's counters for Tom blind pick, in case you didn't know. And with Aphelios, there's even more counters. Like Blitzcrank is Ignar's best champion and it's going against Tom. So I think that ban is completely wasted. And Zoe ban, I don't really know. I feel like it's kind of like their fill ban, like, oh, they're like happy with the set first pick. We get Ornn Aphelios trade, so let's ban Zoe because it's like a target ban that we don't really play, right? But I think the Tom ban was kind of wasted, and I think giving us set for Aphelios and Ornn is not that good because set is so OP. In teamfights, you just can't play against a champion if you have a tank and he just ults your tank into you, and if it hits you, you can't move your character, you flash away, you can't teamfight anymore. So it's like, I think set is just broken in NA especially, and you should ban it, and just giving us like Ornn or something, or Aphelios, something like that. So I think the bans were definitely bad. The Tom and Zoe bans were kind of wasted. We don't often pick those champions on blue side anyways, and they would know that if they did their homework. So yeah.
I also think that Set is kind of like the perfect champ for Licorice, and especially if he's going to play really hard on the weak side, because it allows him to trade effectively by himself, and his stupid Haymaker makes him undiveable. So even if they want to make plays on that side of the map, if they try and punish what you guys are doing, and he's playing under turret, they really can't kill him with that shield. And indeed, we saw him get like double kills, especially what was it, game 2, where they kept trying to like kill him, and he would just double kill them, or somebody would come up and give him some support, and then he double killed them in the lane. So in a way, I started this series being somewhat skeptical of that pick, thinking like maybe you guys should have picked Ornn first. But then when I saw how you guys played around the pick, I was like, oh shit, this is actually really good.
I think one thing that made him not ban set might have been the fact that we didn't play it a single game, and we banned it on both sides against both 100 Thieves in our 3 games and EG against our 4 games. We banned set on both sides, so they thought, oh, they don't play set, and then maybe in draft they took a gamble and we're like, oh, let's just not ban set and hope they first pick Ornn or Aphelios and we get set ourselves, right? Maybe that's their logic, but it's like a gamble, I guess. Or like we're taking the bluff and we just pick set first pick. So I think that might have been the reasoning for not banning set, but I mean, who knows? I'm not FlyQuest, but I think it's bad to take that kind of risk. Unless you feel like you can't win without the risk, then it's a fair enough gamble, I suppose.
Can you actually figure out what their plan for how they thought they were going to win this series was? Like the drafts they're doing here, like a lot of like scale and stuff. What do you think like they thought the plan to beat you guys was?
I think they thought the same plan as always. Pick scaling mage mid, Asir, Victor, Oriana, kind of champ. Pick Ornn, farm for half an hour, and then hopefully win teamfight late game. Play Alistar and Blitzcrank and run mid and hope we can find an inter that can get power evil ahead. And Ignar always fucks his AD carry really hard by leaving his lane when the wave is doomed, which is why Turtle died in game 3 and game 2, because his wave is just messed up, right? So I think their strategy is the same as always. Just pick champs that can help power evil at all times. Pick power evil, a really hard leg and carry champion, and then log in Ornn if possible. Because we banned Trundle, so they think Ornn is OP. That's like their logic, I guess, which is a fair enough logic. And Ornn is a scaling pick, so I think they wanted to scale, hog power evil's dick the whole game, and then try and make plays with like Blitzcrank and Alistar, even though I think those champions aren't super good right now. I think they're kind of troll picks almost. But yeah, I think that's their game plan. Scale for late game and help power evil. Yeah, I don't know. It seems like a whack game to me, but
yeah, where are these mythical late game team fights that they're trying to get to?
Yeah,
I haven't seen one of those in a while.
Well, I think the problem with that strategy for them is, as we were discussing earlier, you guys put so much early objective pressure down, and you guys consistently get like all of the early dragons. So if you are forcing a gold advantage fight where you're threatening Soul at like under 25 minutes, you're never really getting online, especially with those Ornn nerfs that delayed his item spikes.
Yeah. I mean, I thought their game one their game one draft was actually pretty good, except the fact of giving a set. For example, like their 4-pick Azir was good because I banned for it and then they picked it, and then I had to pick like a scaling mid, so it kind of gave Priori like a free lane, I guess. And I think it was their best chance to win a game in the series. I mean, we saw it was quite close. We're actually losing, I think, at 1.2. So I think they did okay, but game 2 and 3, I think they just, I don't know, they played really bad, and their draft was just weird.
Did you actually think it was going to be FlyQuest that would play you in the final, or did you expect EG to make it back?
I mean, I expected EG or TSM to be in the finals.
Yeah, same. We had this little guessing game in our content, and I said it's gonna be TSM in the low bracket finals, and it's probably gonna be a close one. But I thought it was gonna be EG, but FlyQuest really prepared a lot better for EG in the second round than EG did for FlyQuest, and both teams are so similar because EG and Fly have the exact same win condition, 2 different ways. It's always the mid laner that carries the game, or no one carries it at all, right? With one weak side laner, and Turtle is the weak side laner for FlyQuest, and for EG it's Kumo, right? He's the weak player. So the win condition is the same for both teams, but I think FlyQuest just understood how to play their style so much better than EG did. And EG putting Yusuke on champs like Cillian, he obviously can't play, was not the move for them, in my opinion. So I feel like once EG got figured out and people start banning like LeBlanc or making sure that you can't pick Ryze and Echo blind pick, then EG has no win condition in the game anymore. They're just like,
if you basically just look up Suzuki's champion pool for the last 3 years in Europe, then
I mean,
at that point in time you can ban against simply vote out.
Like, if you want to hear our draft against them in week 9, the game before TL, we were like, all right, every game Isuke is 1v9. So let's go to Leaguepedia here. Isuke, champions most played, Echo, Ryze, and LeBlanc. Okay, ban. Picks Kale mid. He picks Kale mid, man. And then I was like, oh, it's fucking Freeman. Like, it's that easy. You don't need a fucking coach to be like the best player in the world. Just go to Leaguepedia, most play champions, and ban all 3. And it's like, oh, Kale's locked in. Oh, nice. Reaper smurfing. So
Does the fact that in the double and bracket, like TSM was starting lower down, were you guys practicing against them while they were in the lower bracket? Like was there a reason why you thought they would be the team that would face you?
Yeah, we scrimmed them, and they play pretty well in scrims. Actually, they're definitely a scrim team that plays like absolute psychopaths in scrims. They're super aggressive, super early and focused, and they give good practice in the early game at least. And they were smashing us some games, like 2 games out of 5. That one time we scrimmed them, so I thought they're pretty good. They played like set support and some stuff like that. So I was kind of like not afraid, but I thought, these guys are actually pretty good.
Problem is, you did just nail it there. That is actually how TSM plays. They smash roughly 2 games out of every 5, and then that's the problem. The other 3 games, That's the reason they weren't playing in that final, mate.
Yeah.
They only look good half the time, don't they?
Yeah, but I think EG got figured out, didn't adapt, and then FlyQuest, although they were also figured out, they adapted well and they played their style much better. So
Well, they also
a decent
made
team.
roster changes as well.
Yeah,
like,
that was a
you
huge
know,
one for sure. Yeah.
Solo coming in and playing the entire series against EG the second time around was a pretty big factor. In terms of their
also, there's no way
win.
FlyQuest should be winning the split anyway. Like, mad props to them for even making the final. I thought they did fucking
Yeah.
mad overperformance. They did really well when you consider who they had and their expectations coming in. Like, that was very impressive. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, coming to split, I was pretty sure the finals, if we were in it, would be against Team Liquid, of course, or if not Team Liquid, then TSM. And seeing neither of those teams in the finals against us is kind of like, whoa, what happened to those teams that this is possible, right? Because TL didn't even make playoffs, and I was like, whoa, that's really not what I thought was going to happen in the split. So
was that a relief for you that you managed to eliminate Team Liquid from playoffs? Because even though, if they had made playoffs, would you have still considered them potentially very dangerous?
Yeah. Same way I thought TSM might be a really strong team in playoffs, even though they had a really bad end into their split, and they looked like one of the worst teams at the end. I thought if at some point they figured the shit out and they click together, they can become a good team. That never happened, but it could happen. And I think TL, same thing could happen to them as well. In the last game against us, they played pretty well, I think.
Yep.
So yeah, I was happy to see Team Liquid out of playoffs. It felt good, both personally, like that little revenge feeling, but also like having Golden Guardians in playoffs instead of Team Liquid. It was like, oh, nice. Those guys can't win, so that's nice. I mean, no offense to Golden Guardians, but they're shit. Right?
I mean, let's be real. They know it. You have to realize, mate, they know it themselves because, and fair play to them, when they made the playoffs, they weren't like, right, we're going to win this. They were just like, let's meme on everyone who said we'd be 10th place.
Yes.
Which is like, that's fair enough. Everyone, you got to know your expectations in the world. Like, just making playoffs was good for them. Yeah,
It's like me when I post the Flashpoint viewership numbers versus Overwatch League. It's not that we're winning the viewership game. It's that that's where my expectations were. That's where my
and people thought we'd be losing even worse.
So, but yes, I do agree. Like, it does say a lot when Golden Guardians are trying to shove it in everyone's faces that they're not 10th place. Going back to Team Liquid, yes, to be fair, that's a pretty big accomplishment for them as an organization. Yeah. They've typically had some, how shall we say, weak GMing. What about Liquid? What are your guys' thoughts on Liquid right now? Because it seems like everything is in flux for them.
Wasn't the real problem that no one can really say anything until we know what happens to Doublelift, right? Like, if Doublelift somehow leaves, then the whole thing changes overnight. If he stays again, then it's just, can they make the team work? So, like, obviously, you guys might know some things behind the scenes. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Just speculate. What would your sense be? Do you think next split Doublelift is playing in Team Liquid? He's a starter. Do you think it all gets fixed? What would be your sense for this?
I mean, I don't really know. I don't have any information or whatever.
No, just to guess, whatever
I think, at least for me, I think Doublelift will go to TSM, in my opinion. And TL will just play with tactical, because they actually look pretty good with tactical. They had like a game plan. They knew how to actually play around top lane or mid lane or whatever. But like, when they play with Doublelift, it's like they need to cover Doublelift no matter what, I feel like. And they don't even win by it, at least this split, right? So I think TSM Doublelift will happen, and I think Tactical will probably play for TL. That's my guess. And
okay, not an unreasonable guess necessarily.
Yeah, I think it's
What
fair
do you
enough
think,
guess.
Zven?
I mean, I don't know anything either about double situation, but the word in the street is Doublelift going to TSM, right? Which I see possible. I think Doublelift TSM with like an import jungler could be a pretty good team, honestly. But I don't think the issues in either team is the player they're moving, right? I don't think that TSM's issue was Kabe was playing bad, and that putting Doublelift in his position would make them a better team, right? I think the way TSM plays makes it that their ball has like almost zero impact on every game they play. They actually just can't do anything in every game they play. They have like 0 to 5% influence on the outcome of the game. They're just like playing the game, no bad impact, but also no positive impact. They're just like there, doing nothing, and the outcome of the game has nothing to do with them, which feels really bad if you're playing the game. So I feel like putting Doublelift there instead of Cobbit wouldn't have changed anything this split, at least. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he has like a big voice, a big influence outside the game. But I feel like the issues in both teams aren't that one player, right? So I don't think it will make a big difference unless there's a huge change in the atmosphere or shot calling or some sort of voice outside the game. So yeah.
Okay, I'm going to sideline you guys from this conversation. So I would recommend not commenting, Nisqy and Zven, on what I'm about to say, because we have to deal with this very carefully. There is I know. there is buckle in. Here we go. The problem with Doublelift going to TSM, and I'm not saying that this is happening, but there
just as a speculation, yeah.
There is a massive conflict of interest with him in a public relationship with the president of TSM in terms of potential tampering. And this is like, in my mind, a pretty significant issue, because we don't know how things are going over at Team Liquid, what is being said behind the scenes. It's a very, I think, poor situation overall, and it certainly gives a poor look to the competitive integrity of the LCS, in my opinion. Now, it's true that Doublelift was not performing well this season. It's true that Team Liquid may, in fact, simply want to get rid of his contract, because remember, Team Liquid is paying an enormous sum for this team. And if we also think about...
and they spend a lot of money, so they might need to save some money at this point in the world, you know?
Yeah, and I'm going to look up the contract database right now.
You must have one of the highest in the whole league, so anyone is cheaper, basically.
I mean, I can't look up, what he's making, but I can... I think I probably have a pretty good guess. However, if we look up Team Liquid's contracts right now, these are not... So, right now, Impact contract is over at the end of 2020, November 17th. Brox's contract, November 17th, 2020. Jensen's contract, November 17th, 2020. Doublelift's contract, November 17th, 2020. Core JJ, November 15th, 2022. So Core JJ is literally the only player of their starting roster who is going to be contracted at the end of this season. So this could be a speculation that they're going to go for a wholesale rebuild and try and push down some of the money within their system, because remember that the rumors are that Impact is on some sort of like 3-year, $3 million guarantee. I would hope that they have realized, sorry, players, that you're not getting a return on that money. Like, that's, even if you win 4 straight titles, you're not making that money back. It's just a lot that they're spending on this roster, and they may be wanting to make some changes. So they might be trying to like unload Doublelift's contract to save some money in anticipation of some sort of wholesale roster rebuild. All that said, these are all possibilities, and they are understandable possibilities for Team Liquid. But I do think that the level of opportunity for tampering here is unacceptable. And that is... It really makes me question what is going on in terms of the LCS management and where the line gets drawn in these scenarios. Don't say anything, Zven and Nisqy. I don't want you
I
to
have a different take, though. I have a different take, which is for putting that to one side a second, the whole tampering issue, which is, by the way, a very, very relevant one if you consider the two people involved. I would just say this. I think if he goes back to TSM, it's whack just as a narrative angle. Like, what, you're going to go back to the team that fucking cut you and essentially blamed you for their international failures. You then went elsewhere and had way more success than them, and now you're going to go back. Like, what is that? That's just whack, dude. Like, it's actually way cooler going to any other team than TSM. Like, this is almost as bad as that scenario where people don't know the story of when LeBron James went back to the Cleveland Cavaliers. The only angle that story ever made sense on is he's from Ohio, right? He's from the area, so he just wanted to play for his home team. But the reason why that story even sucked in basketball is when LeBron James left the Cavaliers and went to the Heat, the guy who was the fucking owner of the Cavs wrote like a really fucked up letter where he was just super rude and disrespectful. So I get the angle of like, it's his hometown team, so he just looked past that. But I would have just never gone back just to stick it to that guy and just be like, look how many championships I'm going to win in a team that isn't yours, mate. Fuck you. How dare you blame me for everything? So like, I just think it's super whack back. Doublelift's now just going to crawl back like a dog to his fucking vomit and then just go, oh, what the hell? Now I love TSM. Like, give me a break. You literally throw their jersey in the trash, like in another one of those little videos. Like, it's not funny. Like, now what? Like, people have to just rewind that GIF and you're putting the jersey back on out the trash. Idiot. This is whack. You all suck. TSM sucks because you just had to admit that what you did like 3 years ago was the right move and you're just going back to it. Doublelift sucks. Everyone sucks in this scenario. Get some self-respect.
Also, I mean, there's the other question of whether he would.
I'll be like me going back to Poland after every. It'll never happen.
Jesus. But it's also the question of like if he does have other offers and chooses to go to TSM, you know, even if there wasn't any tampering with in regards to Team Liquid, but that could be another form of coercion based on the relationship that he has. And honestly, let's think about this differently. If I'm Doublelift, I haven't accomplished what I want to accomplish in the States. I got my bag, man. Doublelift has made a ton of money. Doublelift could retire tomorrow and be a very famous streamer and be extremely successful. Why not go to Europe? Seriously. Like, if that's going to help him find his motivation, why not go join a European team that could actually...
Go join Schalke.
Not Schalke. But like a European
we'll get rid of all these fuckers.
A European team that could actually be a contender, potentially. Like going over there and figuring out where he could slot in and potentially upgrade a team if he was motivated again, because he is a great player. So, I don't know. What are your... I'm not going to ask you what you think about the potential tampering situation, but what are your guys' thoughts on Doublelift as a player right now and where he stands in terms of skill?
You want to go?
Go.
Okay. I mean, I think he's pretty good still. He had a bad split. I agree. He was really slow to adapt to the S10 champions, Aphelios and Senna. He took a long time to realize that Senna can't kill camps, Senna can't push towers, and Senna can't push waves fast. So you have to play a 2-2 style. You have to play well with your support with the Tamkin Senna duo, and you have to match the 2v2 when they go top. You can't just push bot tower. But besides the slow that playstyle he has, he's a really good player. And on certain champions, Sarkhan, Sivir, he's like really, really good. And I think he's the best player I play against in the ball at least for the last 2 years. So I'm happy he's here because otherwise there will be no competition for me at least. But with that said, he had a really bad split, and the whole motivation issues I can't speak of. I don't know what's going on in their team personally, and the whole Brock situation also sucks, I'm sure. But his performance wasn't very good to split until the end, and I don't know why he got benched and all that kind of stuff. It's hard to say, but it seems like he's picked up in solo queue. He plays a lot of solo queue. I played against him yesterday in solo queue. He's 1,000 LP. Seems to be taking it more serious, but I think this is the bad split that every player has at some point in their career, and I'm sure next summer he will be coming back, whatever team he's playing in, and he'll be looking like the best player again, or like a top 1 or 2 at least, right? So I think he's great personally.
So good news, everybody.
Yeah.
2 minutes ago, ESPN Esports tweeted that Jacob Wolf says that TL Doublelift will be heading back to TSM.
Whoa.
So what timing? What timing? 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
Wait, who did that? ESPN who?
Jacob Wolf, ESPN Esports, reported that he'll be going back. So unfortunately, that thing we just talked about looks like it is actually tragically going to happen. I mean, I feel the same way about this that I feel about Bjergsen re-signing with TSM, which is just like, come on, dude. Like, can you please just go somewhere else? You need a change of scenery. Let's get you in a different environment where maybe we can activate your strong suit again instead of knowing exactly what's going to happen every single time.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they're going to go for an import jungler, like you said. I don't
think they can though, because of the rules or whatever.
I mean, it might be hard with the whole virus situation going on,
that's
but
true.
I'm sure they can because they have only one input slot, right?
I guess.
But I wonder what happens to Kabe more than anything. Like, what's he gonna do? This is gonna
Sucks.
I think finding a team in LC mid split is pretty hard, even more so in his role, where there's a lot of really good players, I think, in his role. So I wonder what happens to that guy. If he's just fucked now, or what? If it actually happens. I mean, it's just a rumor, right? Or a wolf bomb, whatever you want to call it.
He tends not to be wrong, and obviously this would make a lot of sense.
I mean,
this move in particular seems pretty obvious, unless because you could say, well, what about EG? But Bang really wasn't the problem on EG. If anything, Bang looked pretty solid throughout this split. and they were playing to him, so they already are on the hook for a big contract at AD carry, and maybe they could have used an additional import slot or something like that. But I mean, I don't know. This whole situation just makes me question things, because like if you put your tinfoil hat on and you go to the most hardcore conspiracy, it's that basically his performance was linked to a promise to get him off of TL and onto TSM, right? That is the most nefarious thing you could say about this situation, which is that he intentionally performed badly in order to be put on the trading block so that he could go to TSM. I don't think that's what happened, but the fact that it could happen is really the problem here. And then the other side of that is the most innocuous thing you could say is that look at all these contracts that are up at the end of the year for Team Liquid, and that they are going to go for a rebuild anyway. Why don't they get some value off of selling this contract before it expires at the end of 2020, considering you've only got one split left and your team doesn't seem to be doing so great? Get some of that money back, and then you're going to rebuild the team anyway. So a lot of how this shakes out is going to be dependent on, I think, what Liquid does.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the thing is that it's really weird, I think, because, I mean, TL has been on top for the last 2 years, right? I think, or 3 even, maybe? 2.
Yeah.
And, like, they have one bad split, and then everything goes boom, you know? So, I don't know. I think it's just really weird, but... Because I think they're still a pretty insane team if they just match together. But it seems like they're not going to play together anymore, so... Sucks.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite the conspiracy theory that you had there, Monte.
I mean, I think that, you know, look, I'm not saying it happened, but I'm just saying the problem is that it could happen, Zven. The problem is that that situation where it could happen should not be allowed to exist. That's not acceptable from the league. Like, the LCS needs to step in and set these boundaries. I mean, the LCS should frankly be having an investigation about this. Show me another sport where this happens. It's bullshit. Like, it's bullshit. And I know it's harsh, but, like, this crosses a professional line.
I also think the crazy thing is it shows how ridiculously stacked, like, the star power in Team Liquid is, that even if Doublelift leaves, it's not like the team should be crap. Like, they should still have a chance to contend for the title. Like, look at the rest of the players on the team. It's not even like Tactical has to be the best player. Like, they've got so many good players elsewhere. They could still reformulate the team somehow and be a potential contender anyway. So it kind of shows how much money they've spent in that team.
Yeah, I agree. Also, it speaks volumes that they have 2 good years of 4 titles, and then they lose 1 split, and they have a lot of, like, issues that weren't in their hands, like the Broxai situation going on with they have Shrimfire playing and whatever, and then they just screw everything. Fuck all this, and this is trade everyone away. And
that's what's weird to me is, like, you know, we've talked about this before, that Doublelift could have used to break this split, and as soon as you realize Brox's visa isn't coming in, and you know Spring Split isn't going to get you to Worlds, why not just put him, you know, give him a break, give Tactical some experience on stage, give Shurnfire some experience until Broxa gets there. Like, why bring him in a situation where he's clearly and self-admittedly not the most motivated, and put him in that situation? Because at least if you just sort of just call spring a wash, then you can just be like, all right, everybody, we're motivated for summer now. Let's get back on track. Because the team itself was still good. Like you're saying, it was still a good team.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I have not been in the situation that he's been in where I can't find motivation to play or play solo queue or wake up every day and play scrims. So I can't even speak from his point of view. But yeah, I mean, sure, if you really think, like, if you truly think that Spring Split is useless and that MSI is useless, which is just crazy to think that, in my opinion, although it got cancelled, so maybe he's just too smart. I think it's weird to take a Spring Split off when MSI is such a huge tournament that improves the team so much by going there. But yeah, I guess in hindsight, him taking the whole split off would have been a good thing for their team, maybe, given how I think it's weird that you break up the whole team because of one bad split, unless you have some serious internal stuff going on. But I'm kind of just speculating here. I don't know anything, so
I mean,
I can't really understand this point of view.
I think we can guess based on how things shook out that obviously the team wasn't working very well. Something was wrong. Because
I think Spring Split is actually really not useless, even though you don't go to Worlds, because Spring Split think MSI is an invaluable experience for any team to go to. And I think when I went there with G2 in 2017, we came back a much better team. And even though the points aren't there anymore for Spring Split, the amount of scrim practice you get at MSI that no one else gets from your region, and the amount of stage games, you get 10 games at least in groups, right? And then 1 best of 5 or 2 best of 5s, depending on how far you go, it's like super invaluable for any team. Even the fucking traveling experience and living in a different place and getting like a boot camp setting is actually so good for your team. And you come back so much better, and no one else in the region has gotten that practice while you did. So I think Spring Split isn't useless, personally, unless MSI gets cancelled, which it might be. We don't know. In that case, Doublelift is right that Spring Split is actually useless if you don't go to MSI.
I mean, we brought this up before, though, but the alternative that teams haven't taken advantage of is that they literally just go to the if you don't go to MSI, you go to the MSI region and boot camp and practice against the MSI teams.
Yep.
No one does
I mean,
that. Everybody's just like, well, time to take my vacation now.
Yeah. So while everyone has a vacation, one team like us in 2017 go to MSI and you practice every day against really good teams, and you scrim and you play stage games every single day. It's like you like go into highball time chamber and they're just like vacation mode, right? So you come back and you smack people around. So as long as you don't have burnout problems in summer, which happens to some teams, because after MSI 17 we had like 8 days off and we had to have Perks, Trick, and Expect have 1 week vacation. So we play with 3 subs week 1. Still 1, by the way, because we're too good. But you get the idea that unless you burn out from that, I think MSI is an invaluable experience, and the practice is just so insane for any team to go to. So yeah, my sense.
So considering that Travis Gafford has said that MSI won't be happening, obviously that hasn't been confirmed yet, but we talked earlier about you guys having the problem of having this big victory, even though I think we would all agree that it would have happened on LAN just because of your level of dominance. There's not a lot of question there, and because your online LAN performance looked very, very similar. But in a world where there isn't an MSI, like, surely this must be really shitty for you, because for the first time in a long time, it looks like there's an NA team that can be competitive on an international stage. And after stomping people for the last 3 months, it would have been nice to prove, or at least have some level of competition to make yourselves better. And there's always going to be kind of a what if on your performance if you guys can't keep this level of play up, or just in general, even if you can, about what would have happened internationally halfway through this year. And that just fucking sucks.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really sucks if there's no MSI, but I feel like kind of us getting our team together. I mean, we're a new team, right? We got a new ball lane and kind of new jungler, I guess. So I think for us, it's still really important that we did well in Spring Split, because now going to the summer, we already have like all the basics, all the thing. Like we are a good team already, so we can just go up from here. And I feel like if someone makes like roster changes for summer, then they have to start from the beginning, right? Where like we already had Spring Split to kind of figure that out. So I think we still have an advantage of kind of charting the Spring Split. So even if MSI doesn't happen, I don't think it will matter as much for us, because we're still gonna be a good team. So
I mean, I gave my opinion that I think MSI is really useful. Spring Split is whatever, but the MSI tournament attendance is so invaluable for any team. So I think it like I said, it fucking sucks that we don't get to go to MSI and practice there. So yeah, sucks. That's just what it is.
What do you think the acceptable level of risk is? Because I'm curious if there's a scenario where Riot could have MSI somewhere, fly the teams in, and keep you all isolated and playing from like your specific rooms. Like if you guys had a practice facility that was only you, and you were getting your food like delivered to you, and you were staying in a hotel or a living arrangement where your practice facility also was. So you kind of just imported people and put them in like quarantine, basically. Do you think would you be comfortable with that?
I mean,
I would not be, I think.
Okay.
I think if Riot hires a fucking private jet and flies the whole team,
it's not unreasonable. No, seriously, like you laugh, but actually think about that. If you hired a private jet, if you look at the cost of operating the stage and the stadium and the entire production, and you move that money into the jets instead, you might actually save money, weirdly. But that could be a possibility. Like, what would it take for you to feel comfortable with that, Nisqy? Nothing? Nothing's an acceptable answer.
I mean, for me, the acceptable thing is like I'm playing from my home right now, and everyone comes to NA, and yeah, that's it.
I mean,
I don't really
I'll be
want to
fine.
travel, to be honest, but
I'd be fine if I was like in a private jet where I don't have to talk to anyone other than the pilot who's in the plane, and then I just fly straight to, I don't know, EU or whatever is the middle point for everyone, and then we spend the whole time in quarantine in some house, and then all food is delivered, everything like PC stuff is already there. I'll be fine with that personally, but I can see if Riot wouldn't want to do it because it doesn't seem like their style do it like that, and they'll probably just cancel it or have it normally if the situation dies down. So, but I'll be fine with that, like that kind of stuff, like private jet into some house that's only for us, no one else. I could see it.
I think it's actually probably more likely that you guys wouldn't have to move, that they would fly other people into
it'll
be
the
here,
States instead.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
So I don't think that would necessarily change for you. But I think it's certainly an interesting problem, and you'd have to sort of, and honestly, the crazy thing about it is I'm not sure you could even make that call yet, because you would literally have to go to, we just started LCK playoffs, LPL playoffs haven't started yet. So you'd literally have to wait for those to finish and then talk to those teams and be like, would you be willing to do this? So who knows when that call is going to actually be made.
I also wonder what the MSI will be like, the schedule, because LPL and LCK are so late this time around. Usually the
'cause
LCK
of the
finals
breaks.
are, usually the finals of LCK is like the day before LCS or like the day after, something like that. It's like the same time. I remember last year I was watching the finals of LCK the same morning as I was playing my own finals, so I feel like they're so behind on the schedule that they can't even like take stands on what to do yet with the teams. Like they can't even ask like, "Hey T1, are you fine going to MSI if you win?" Or they haven't even won yet. So
Right, exactly.
not sure how that influences Riot's decision, but I think they'll probably just cancel it if they can't have it normally, have it held normally. So yeah, feel like it's doomed for MSI.
Sucks.
I also think, by the way, like if you remember the original announcement that sort of delayed cancelling it was that they were just going to have it like 2 weeks into the summer split or something like that. I think it was like partway into summer, which basically is the old position that Rift Rivals used to be in. And even that would have sucked because if everyone remembers, like Rift Rivals not only was like a worthless tournament, but then it would just mess up whoever the teams that went to that were for how they played in the summer split. And half the time people had that like hangover after Rift. So like, I actually think even if it had been played, if it's not played at the proper spot between the two splits, it's still not the same tournament anyway. So it definitely sucks that won't be on this year, but I think it was already somewhat ruined anyway. I don't think it was ever going to happen at the normal time.
Yeah, I think it's probably pretty likely. We should take a break real quick so we can go to the bathroom and watch the roundup and everything like that. We'll be back in a few minutes. I do want to talk more about MSI and possibly Worlds and what all of that means before we round out the show today. So in the meantime, enjoy.
Howdy there, buckaroos and buckarettes, and welcome to another edition of the Cloud9 Roundup. That part of the 9 summoning insight where half of you type cringe and the other half type K-Kona, but you're all secretly enjoying it. As you can tell, I'm Cowboy on top, and I'm Leisure on the bottom, because we're still in the midst of that COVID-19 crisis, and I refuse to put on real pants while I'm at home. And I know you ain't wearing real pants either. But enough of that chit-chat. We've got a lot of Cloud9 League of Legends news. Of course, you're watching this show right now, so you already know that Cloud9 won their first LCS title in 6 years. Congratulations to those Cloud9 boys, and you're hearing from Nisqy and Zven right now, aren't you? I bet it's awful interesting. Vulcan, however, won the Player of the Series for the finals. It was the most dominant split in LCS history, as the Cloud9 boys only dropped 2 games, one to TSM in the regular season and the other to EG in the semifinals. But they won 3-0 over FlyQuest in those finals. It is Vulcan's birthday on April 20th. Now you're going to be watching this on the 21st, but you can retroactively wish him the happiest of birthdays. Remember, if you're going to check out that Cloud9 store, the championship shirts are available now. So come on and celebrate C9's championship victory with a little memorabilia of your own. Zven, of course, was also the first player to ever win a North American and European title, so congrats to him. And another congratulations to Blabber for winning the Spring Split MVP. Guess we didn't need that Svenskeren MVP player after all. No doubt you've heard of that League of Legends win at the LCS level, but that wasn't the only win for Cloud9 in League of Legends this past week. The C9 Academy roster also won their Spring Split Championship 3-0 over Evil Geniuses Academy. So congrats to our Academy boys as well. C9 still the best team in League of Legends LCS when it comes to developing those up-and-coming players, and we're at it again. Now, you might have heard some news about TenZ, the former Counter-Strike player, now being up for a Valorant spot here at Cloud9. Well, he's been competing as well. In the 100 Thieves Valorant Invitational, TenZ placed 3rd to 4th place with Team Summit 1G. Also, Cloud9 streamer PvPX and TenZ competed and placed 9th through 12th in the Go Boom TV Code Green Valorant Invitational. So some surprising and welcome results early on as Cloud9 continues to look for more Valorant players. A little while back, Cloud9 picked up a new Dota 2 team. They've been playing in the Beyond the Summit Pro Series, and they took 3 wins, 1 over EG, 1 over Furia, and 1 over Beast Coast in the last week. Only 1 loss to the Quincy crew, 3-1. Not a bad week for Dota 2. In Fortnite, Blackouts and his duo King hit 236 points in the Daily Cup tournament, and they got 1st place and a new world record. Nyx, however, will be departing C9 and no longer with the organization representing Fortnite. Taking a look at our CSGO roster, they may not have made the finals for Flashpoint, but they have now qualified for DreamHack Masters Spring with wins over the New England Whalers, Bad News Bears, and finally their rival in Team Envy. We'll see more of Cloud9 CSGO over at DreamHack. Finally, big news if you like big engines. Cloud9, they're sticking with BMW, along with some other teams, FPX, G2, SKT, and Fnatic. Teams all across the world signing with BMW. What a mighty fine sponsor they are. Thank you very much for watching another edition of the Cloud9 Roundup. We'll be back in just a moment with more of the 9 Summoning Insight presented by AT&T.
All right, we're back. And we do have an announcement for some more Cloud9 content. Cloud9 and Red Bull are going to be hosting a King of the Cloud 1v1 challenge with LCS Academy and coaching staff on May 1st. So you guys will be joining in on that, Nisqy and Zven. And maybe me.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I know about that. Nisqy
Yeah, I
says.
know about that. Definitely.
I'm really excited for May
Yeah.
1st when I go on a 1v1 challenge.
I'm pretty sure I win these.
What?
As he drinks from his Red Bull bottle
Yeah.
conspicuously so that we can see the C9 and Red Bull collaboration on the 1v1. So you guys can look forward to that while we have some downtime in between LCS. And that's all I got to say about that. Thorin, take it away.
Right. When the other day Doublelift came on LS's stream or vice versa, I can't remember which way it was, and they were like having all this discussion about stuff in NA, etc. I mean, Doublelift might want to have a look in the fucking mirror before he complains about some of that shit. Like, you are part of the problem. But anyway, we'll put that to one side. Like, one thing that they brought up that I found amazing that this wasn't more of a shock in the community was he basically admitted that teams like literally avoided scrimming Cloud9, or he even implied at one point that he quit a scrim against you guys. Like, what the fuck's he talking about? People, please tell me this isn't real, that because your team was winning the scrims too hard, these idiot other NA teams really just were like, well, no point losing, so they just didn't scrim you anymore. That can't be real, Sven. Please tell me that can't be real.
For some teams, it's real. Some teams, like, I don't want to call them out, but like AT&T, for example, we have this meme, we call them, Okay,
I don't want to call him out, but literally Immortals.
But
okay,
but we would like have this joke where we would speedrun Immortals in like 3 hours of scrims instead of 5, which is a normal time, and they'll be like apologizing for like the low scrim quality, and we would stomp them every game in like minute 15, and they're like, "Oh, sorry guys, we can't play. Can we just GG?" Yeah, sure. And then we would speedrun them. But for most teams, it was just like on Fridays, the night before LCS, they didn't want to scrim us because it's like demoralizing, which I kind of get it, but not really. But for most teams, it was just on Fridays, not every day. But for the whole canceling thing, it was a common trend that we would play 4 games, and if it was ever 4-0, and the games were like tilting games, like you lose their game in like 5 minutes, and you're just sitting through a lost game because you don't want to surrender because it's bad scrim ethics to your opponents, just FF if you're behind. And then after game 4, just like half an hour review time, you're like, what's happening here? And then the manager's like, hey guys, sorry for today. Our players aren't focused, or they're feeling really bad today. We have to cancel. Sorry guys. That happens not often, but it happens like once every 2 or 3 weeks that some team is like, after the 4th game, if they lose 4-0, they're like, yeah, let's just cancel because this is shit. Everyone is tilted or whatever, I don't know, but it's usually just what happens sometimes. But yeah, I mean that's what it is, you know.
Holy shit!
Some teams
Why
will
is
get
NA like this?
yeah. I mean, to be fair, it's not just NA. When I was in G2 in 2017, we were scrimming against some teams, and HK, for example, would always cancel the 6th game if it was 5-0, no matter what. Like we were like 45-1 against them in scrims. I had a record at some point tracked on the Google Streets, and they would always cancel the 6th game if they lost the first 5, no matter what. It was 10 out of times we could like see it coming if we scrim them. We were like, yeah, I'm sure they're canceling, and then our coach is like, yeah, they canceled. Woo! You know, we're like happy that we made them cancel because they're so fucking mad, right? But yeah.
I can't believe, Monty, we live in a world where people are getting forfeit wins in scrims. Like, this has gone too far now, mate.
It just depends. Most of the players and the teams, we know they signed up for a nice, leisurely, relaxing time for their retirement, right? They thought they'd be on a beach in Florida, and they didn't sign up for the surprise BDSM club where you're getting hit by paddles. And, you know, some people enjoy that, but some people, they're like, no, I just wanted to be on a beach and no nipple clamps. You know what I mean? So that's that's the kind of situation that the expectation just wasn't there, as it were.
What's more weird about that as well to me is that is so alien to me in terms of a competitive mindset, because back in the day, like, if people don't know, I'm so old school. Like when I started esports, it wasn't even a thing called esports. You basically just played Quake, the game, like the 1v1 game. And when you played Quake, the whole famous thing about why the community was so hardcore is because if I play someone even slightly better than me, I get the shit beat out of me in the scrim. Like it would look like I was like 10 levels worse because obviously it's a 1v1 game and the guns are incredibly powerful. So if someone's slightly better than you, basically it's terrible. It just feels that you're just being oppressed the whole game. Everyone who's played StarCraft knows this. It's the same shit in that game. If someone's slightly better than you, it actually feels stressful just playing the game. You just constantly like you're behind them and you're battling to keep up and you're trying to do the right move and you're not sure what the right move is. But here's the problem. If you actually enjoy getting good at games, you also know that's exactly where you have to be. That is the fucking trench that you are in, trying to improve and get better. There's no point playing against the guys way worse and beating them. You're not going to improve, are you?
I feel like
hand in hand with it.
I feel like what we should do is all NA players during the off season must spend a month playing just an RTS, a 1v1 RTS. Pick it. StarCraft 1, 2, Warcraft 3. Play a 1v1 RTS and sit there and realize that as you're staring at the defeat screen at the end of the game, that there's only one person's fault that it could be. And
exactly.
That it's your own. And the only way to improve is to go back and suffer through the replay and realize how dumb you were. And
I mean,
as soon as you play that for a month and you try laddering that shit, when you come back to playing League of Legends and your teammate carries you and you're like, oh my God, this feels amazing. I'm winning, but I'm not actually carrying this game. You're going to be so much better in terms of your mentality because nothing will destroy your brain like just failing at an RTS for a long time.
I mean, to be honest, I think, unless I'm wrong, or like I don't remember whether, but I think the bottom teams are the ones that actually did not cancel at all against us, if I'm not wrong. Or like they would go through the games, they would actually like play the games even if they're like 10k behind, you know, or they would actually just FF when the game is actually over. But like when we play some top teams, it's like we invade, they defend, and then they lose the level 1 or level 2 or whatever, and then they say, yo, can you remake or whatever?
Holy
And
shit,
like,
they're asking for GG.
No, that one's
RE
really common. It's
in
like
scrims.
Yeah.
it's like we pick something bot that's really OP
crazy.
level 1, like we have Tom Senna and we have like a good jungle level 1 like Talia, whatever, I don't know. And then we invade level 1, we fight a mid buff, they're all there, they fight us till death, then they lose because we have better champions level 1, right? It's obvious, there's no like skill here, it's just champion difference, right? Then they die.
Yo.
Like, guys, can we remake? It's lost, so
And then we're
like,
like,
what
nope.
the fuck? And then we're like, why didn't you just give red buff then? Instead of just fight till death and be like, if it doesn't work, we just remake. It's simple, you know. That's not how you fucking play League, right? You can't just like do
That's
that,
the
right?
true. That's
To
the,
be fair,
that's the
Monty,
true
in
Dom
this
sub
sort of a
mentality
world,
right there. That's
Yeah.
the true sub.
But here's the thing, though, Monty.
Give it to me
Actually,
again.
if this is the scene we're talking about, it makes perfect sense that Doublelift's going back to the TSM. Like, actually, I apologize for everything I implied earlier. We're living in a clown world, so cool.
I mean, I'm not saying
Yeah.
it's any specific team. It's just it happens sometimes that something bad happens level 1. It's like kind of like a bad scenario because we're not gonna be here in a real game. And yeah, that's remake. But if you invade level 1, you see it coming on a ward, you still fight 3v3, then you lose. And you're like, yeah, can we remake? That's just fucking bullshit, right?
Yeah,
And
of course.
and then just take the L and play
Just
from there.
accept it, yeah.
Yeah, or give the buff and take the small L, right? And play a real game of scrim that you might actually have happen to you on stage. But that one happens pretty often, I would say. I think it's fair to remake if something really stupid happens, like your fucking red buff resets if you're jungling or something, that's whatever. But fighting with the mindset that if I lose, I'll remake the game instantly, it's just that bad way of approaching scrims. And it makes no sense to take a coin flip, not even coin flip, like a 10-90, and then be like, yeah, I'm gonna remake if I lose, it's fine.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Especially when you know it's coming. Like when you scrim Sinan, you usually
Yeah.
know that we will invade you or we will try to make something happen.
Yeah.
And then either like some teams actually just give it, they accept it, you know?
Mhm.
And then some teams just like they bring their top laner or their support and then they
Yeah.
lose. Can we remake, guys? No, okay, let's play then. And then 5 minutes after, guys, all right,
Yeah.
let's
And it's
pause.
like
and
often if they ask for remake and you're like, no guys, can we just play
and
the
they
game?
just
And
run
you-
it down.
then after like 10 minutes, we have 20 kills. We're like, oh, they're just running down on purpose now to like, I mean, not on purpose, but like they're not taking it serious. If you say no, you can't remake, can't GG it because it's like mid 5, then you can see how they stop taking it less serious and they're like, yeah, fuck this. It's kind of useless game anyway. Let's just run it down and then FF at 15 or 20, whatever is allowed, by scrim standards. So yeah, it's definitely not often this happens, but it does happen sometimes, and you're like, fuck, this is a useless scrim.
So
This just shows you how money doesn't motivate people, because some of these people are getting paid they're getting paid more than a fucking like lawyer who works 80 hours a week and has to be on call with his phone like 24/7. Like these guys won't even fucking put in the time to play scrim 4 because they lost the 3 scrims before. Like this is not an attitude for professionals to have. What the fuck is this?
Thorin, these are the same people who tried to cancel the spring split because it didn't matter.
They were like, GG, RE, should we just start the spring split again?
It's like,
Listen, Cloud9,
oops.
you guys started 9-0. That's unfair. Like, can't we just like restart the whole spring split
I
again?
mean, to be honest, I think that's also where like you can see that some teams are actually like, for example, us when we're behind, we're happy. We're like, all right, we like. I mean, we're not happy to be behind, but like we're like, okay, let's try to play from behind. Make some good plays, or let's try to come back or whatever, and then we actually win some games. But like other teams is just they just crumble and then they just FF and
Exactly.
Would you guys be less mad if you... Because right now, just so people who don't know, the standard way of playing scrims is you play 5 games against one team, and you do that once a day. So in previous years, it was like, let's play 3 best of 3s against 2 teams. Now it's 1 team a day for the most part, 5 games. Sometimes you guys play a 6th game if... I've seen you guys play 6 games if you, everything is short, so you're like, oh, we have some extra time, let's go ahead and play the 6th game. Would it be effective and less tilting for you guys if you had maybe like an hour where you just played the first 15 minutes of the game 4 times in a row?
Yeah, I think it could be
like
useful.
like if you did a draft and you agreed, okay, we're going to use the same draft so that way you could just get into the games and like blind pick it super fast after the first draft, and you just go and you play 15 minutes. And you're like, okay, we're done here. Let's reset, blind pick quickly. Everybody gets in 15 minutes. Quickly, everybody gets in 15 minutes. And that way you actually do just make good practice out of a situation where teams want to be experimental and do dumb shit.
I think the theory behind this is pretty good, but I think in reality, a lot of teams would just play overly aggressive and lose the whole game in 2 or 3 minutes. So like either bot dives 2v2 and the whole game's over, or mid jungle fights 2v2 at level 3, which everyone knows is gonna happen, and then they lose or win, starts the whole game in 1 second. Instead of playing like an earlier game where you time your waves, you do for bases, you do you play for the crabs or like a dragon or herald setup. Instead, it's gonna be like a only lane phase game where the first 5 minutes decides the whole game, instead of actually having an early game that actually makes you improve. It's gonna be like laning practice and mechanical practice only. So that's what I think is gonna happen if you do that. But I think the theory behind it, playing the early game, is actually pretty good. But I think no team will ever, it's not in NA at least, won't make good use of it. It will become a fiesta that is decided after 5 minutes. Through all lanes playing super aggressive, all jungle ganks will be killed no matter what, because everyone doesn't care about the game outcome, right? So yeah, I can see the theory, but I think in reality it would be.
Yeah, but isn't that better than them inting in a full game and then?
That is.
You see,
fair.
I if the teams are going to behave the same way, isn't this a better way to get better practice out of teams that do this? That's my question. I understand what you're saying, but my point is you're saying they do it regardless. So...
I mean, it depends. I mean, it doesn't happen like 5 games out of 5.
Yeah.
It happens like one game out of maybe like 7 or 8 or 9 or whatever. I don't know like how many games. It's not like 24/7. Like every game is like, oh man, they're gonna run it down. Or
I think in a scrim week of like 20 to 25 games, it happens like 1 game a week, right?
2 sometimes.
2 sometimes, yeah. Where we
terrible.
really want, yeah, it's not that bad, but I think most games are actually really fine quality, and some teams have really no good ethics where if they're behind, they don't just run down and force surrender road. If they're behind, they play like a human team. They give us good practice, and they aren't late. They don't take a long time in reviews, and they're a good team. Like FlyQuest, for example, has nice ethics. They don't fight level 1 till death and lose and ask for remake. They are on time always. They don't troll draft and scrims. They don't do this thing where there's one thing called a proud check where you do a draft and then your opponents pick the champions and you're like, oh, they picked the champion that we weren't sure if they will play or not, and then you just dodge and like, oh, now we know they play Senna, or we know they play this Yasuo combination or whatever, right? Just test
Wait a
them
minute,
play.
people dodging scrims.
Yeah, like sometimes you go in a draft and then red side doesn't ban Senna.
You should go right. You just forfeit the game, then they go 0-1. Right, next game.
Yeah, that's what you would think, right? So like the team would be like, instead of banning Senna, they ban Tahm Kench. Then we pick Senna, and they're like, okay, let's see what they pick here. They picked Nautilus, is a common one, or Maokai, or Cillian in the LSC, right?
Sure.
Then you pick the champion, and then they're like, oh, dodge, and then sorry guys,
Monty,
sorry guys,
they're literally using the scrim strategy I used to use when I used to cheat at those choose your own adventure books where it goes, go to page 47 to go down the tunnel. And I go, ooh, it's a bit scary, this tunnel, Monty. You know, a lot of that flavor text. There might be a goblin down there. And I keep my finger, I keep it on page 27. I go to 46 and it goes, you died. The goblin gets you. I go, no, I didn't. I still go, no, I choose not to go down the tunnel, Monty. That's actually what they're using. Except if this, I was like an 8-year-old kid. They're doing this as like grown adults.
No, I think it's fine to dodge if your draft is just fucking shit and you couldn't figure out what to pick in time. That's fine. But if you like test your opponent's priorities and what they first pick and what they don't first pick and what they play with this,
that's PM as fuck. Come on,
that's fucked up. Yeah.
Also, it's also just pointless because here's the other thing: you're not actually getting information because your opponent might just be like, well, we're going to pick Senna. We don't know what to run with Senna, so let's try this. It's not actually giving you information because the team that you're getting information from might also be experimenting. So it's just stupid.
Yeah, it really is stupid.
You have to play that game to know if they're good with it.
And especially if you're playing,
otherwise you could be getting wrong information. If you played that game and they were shit, you might think, wow, well, they're not going to do that in the future, so we actually have real information now. Yeah. That is actually mind-blowing.
I think it's even worse when you're playing against a team that's better than you and gives you normally the best practice you can get. So in our case, we're the best team, right? So you shouldn't fucking fuck around with us, you know? We should value our scrims more, right? And last 2 years in playing against TL, same thing. Don't fuck with these guys. You know, try to give them good practice so they want to scrim you more, so you can, you know, get good practice. I mean, sure, I hate scrimming TL because they will always fucking beat us, but it's a good thing, right? Because they're the best team. So you shouldn't like be late. You shouldn't have bad ethics like dodging and testing their priorities and fighting level 1 and then remaking the game, because that makes that team think, oh, this team fucking sucks. And I will admit that we have a blacklist in Cloud9 right now. I don't want to say who's on it, but we have some teams that are just like, yeah, never again. We played them in like week 3 or week 4 scrims. We're like, oh, all 5 games were shit. They picked troll champions, and when they're behind, they run it down. They asked for GG early. They were late half an hour, blaming it on something useless. Review times is like 40 minutes. That's average, and NA is considered to be 20 minutes, which is like the rule that after 20 minutes we play next game, or we go into the lobby at least. So we're like, yeah, this team blacklist, never again. That's fine, right? So you don't want to be on that kind of list if you're a lower tier team, right? You want to improve, right? So I feel like it's messed up. But the whole dodging thing and the prior check, whatever you can call it, happens in EU too. It happened a lot when I was there. Back in the day, people had really bad ethics. They were often late. They would often cancel after 5 or 4 games, depending on if you play 5 or 6 games. And there was a lot of like proud check. Oh, they played the champion. Nice, let's dodge. Now we know for the future. You know, they played this champion that's always banned. It happens a lot when there's like one champion that's perma banned, like Senna or Kalista or game playing Mordekaiser, right? Whatever you want to use. So it's kind of fucked up, but it's just how people do it.
If anyone wants to know why Asia has been ahead in League of Legends for 20 years, like while all this is going on, it's like meanwhile somewhere in Asia, and then a coach is like, "Yeah, listen, the ADC player, I'm just going to need you to play 10 games of Zven in a row into anything," and then he goes, "Yes, boss," and then that's League of Legends explained for you right there. You know,
I mean, to be honest, I think, for example, like if you just take the example of like FlyQuest, they're actually the only team that actually scrims us regularly, and like they actually do okay, you know, like they don't just int it, they don't run it down. And then for example, I remember, I mean sometimes, but like when they played against EG, they scrimmed us for like maybe
oh my god,
2 or 3 like maybe like 2 best of 5s or whatever, and we like 10-0'd them, but like in 20 minutes. And then they played EG and they smurfed on them, so it's like, we got shit on by C9, but
it helped them.
It helped us to beat EG, you know.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
So props to Fly.
So Nisqy just low-key dropped the actual fucking humble brag that it was actually C9 smashing FlyQuest even harder that made them beat
No, I mean, to be honest,
the final. I like that. It was subtle.
I mean,
they sounded humble.
To be honest, because they even won some games, I think, at least. And I feel like if you get games from us, then you can learn from it, and then you can also beat other teams the same way you beat us.
I mean, I love it. I love it because you're like the kung fu master who's pitting his students against each other, like trying to expose their weaknesses so that they can fight for your approval and also the right to fight you in the end, right?
I guess, yeah. I don't know.
The final boss, Nisqy.
all your little minions, all your little cadets are just trying to kill each other. You're just stoking that fire by teaching them how with all of each other's weaknesses. It's good. I like it.
Yeah.
So, on another note, your Academy team, the Cloud9 Academy team, did win the Challenger series. So, and I know from a couple weeks ago, Licorice was on the show, and he was saying that they were probably going to be your main scrim partner heading into finals. How effective is scrimming those guys, considering that they're doing pretty well for an amateur level team?
It depends on the level of your team. For us, it's pretty fine because they're the best team in the academy. But for FlyQuest, for example, who have like I can't remember, they weren't even playoffs, I think. They're shit, haven't played for 2 weeks. They get no practice from them. But we can actually practice against our academy team. We can like force them into scenarios that we think FlyQuest might pick for certain champions, certain matchups, and kind of practice environments. So I think it's pretty good. But obviously, we do win the majority of the games, and sometimes it's a stomp. But we thought practicing as a academy team was much better than giving EG or FlyQuest, whoever wins, info on us that we will have on them anyways. Because we watch them play a best of 5, right? So we'll have so much advantage here by not scrimming them. So
yeah,
I think just scrimming academy, even if they're worse than EG and FlyQuest, is better because we don't give away anything to EG or FlyQuest.
Also by scrimming an academy team, usually they're the one tryharding their asses off too. It's not like they're not just ending, you know? Like they want to get good practice too. They want to get better as a team because they had finals that week too. And I think it helped them as well. I mean, I think they would stomp finals anyways, but yeah.
So
and also we also asked them, do you guys actually want to practice against us after like a day or two? Because I mean, we were kind of stomping them, and then they were like, yeah, we want them. We're like, okay, that's nice, you know? But like, I'd be okay with them saying, nah, you know, I don't really want to scrim you guys. We gave them the choice, so.
I think it helps them too because they're obviously also not practicing against their opponents that they were going to face in the academy final. On that note too, you guys mentioned I want to talk about the double elimination bracket and get your guys' take on it because you had, I mean, the disadvantage. Now there isn't a bracket reset, which I keep telling people from the FGC that just don't understand why we can't have a bracket reset. We can't play back-to-back best of 5s, guys. Like, that's not a thing that's going to happen. And, of course, you can say, well, they don't have to be on the same day. That is true in this one situation where we're online. So right now we could have, but we couldn't have known that when we announced the format, right? When the LCS announced the format, because they thought it was going to be live. You cannot have a situation where you're renting a stadium for multiple days for matches that may not happen. Works in basketball and hockey because they're huge. Doesn't work in esports right now, okay? So logistically, it's impossible. And also, there is a built-in advantage in that Cloud9, did you guys have to play for a week? No, you didn't. You got to play fewer best of fives. And depending on when you get knocked into the lower bracket, and depending on the format, usually if you have 8 teams in a double elim bracket, you could play 2 more best of fives if you get knocked out in the quarterfinals, go down to the lower bracket, and go all the way to the grand finals. You play 2 more best of fives, which is a huge amount. And in your case, for you guys, you didn't have your opponent played the day prior and didn't have as much time to prep for you, and you got to see them again.
Yeah.
So, do you think that's enough of an advantage? Would you guys like to see any changes to the system?
I mean, I already mentioned it earlier, but I think the fact that we saw FlyQuest versus EG, a full best of 5, and we played them the day afterwards, gives them very little time to prepare for us, because they have to prepare for their opponent first, right? So
and they had to play an extra best of 5, period, where they could have gotten eliminated.
Yeah. I mean, that too, yeah. Like, at least the whole 5 or 3, 4, 5 games against Fly or EG was a huge, like, scouting advantage for us. So I feel like it was fine already there. But yeah, the one less best of 5 is a huge advantage already in itself. And then watching them play one day before our final against them is a huge advantage. They don't get to go home and prepare for one team only. They have to prepare for 2 teams the whole week. And you also have to win to make it there, right? So I thought it was really fine, personally. The only thing that was weird about the format is that we're the first team in playoffs to play a game, right? We won first place in the season, but we're playing the first best of 5 over the split. Whereas normally the first place in the old format is playing after one week, right? Have like a week break or whatever. So that was kind of weird, but it doesn't actually like change anything as long as you're prepared for the first week. But yeah, I think the format is pretty good, and I think it's nice to see that some teams like FlyQuest lose, come back, and do well. I mean, even more in G2, right? They lost to fucking Mad Lions, and they came back and they stomped the finals 3-0, right? They stomped Fnatic 3-0 in finals, and I think this format has been long overdue, right? We should have this format a long time ago. I love double elimination because I think it's more fair, and you always find the best teams in the finals. It's never like, oh, this team that finished third is actually better than this second place team, but it's just unlucky bracket, right? So I love double elimination, and I think it's super good.
I'm also with you on that last part. One of the best factors about it is you just get to see more of the matchups as well. Yeah. Like this time, if there'd been no lower bracket, we'd have just never got to see like FlyQuest versus Cloud9. But we get to see the EG versus Cloud9, FlyQuest versus Cloud9. We get to see them play each other. Like just the amount of matchups. Like, there's no real questions left to be answered. We got all the answers.
Well, we also got to see in Europe the G2 Mad Lions twice, so that we could show, oh yeah, this was kind of a fluke the first time it happens. Like, credit to Mad Lions, but it was a fluky series and a fluky game, and G2 go on and they steamroll the finals. It was the same thing last year with us in the Overwatch League, where we had a team, the San Francisco Shock, that was unbelievably dominant throughout the year, and they got freak upset in the quarterfinals, and they eventually won by sweeping the finals. It was very similar to what happened with G2, like really, really similar story. And we wouldn't have had the best team winning in either of those cases, and it would have just been like, well, that was a cool upset. But all the games after that would have been a lower quality, right? So it was definitely disappointing. So I'm glad that they switched to this format where we can actually have these stories. And indeed, for you guys,
I just want this for Worlds now, though.
Yes, please.
Make the Worlds playoff bracket double limb. Problem solved.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's been too many Worlds where the best team wins, obviously, but the second best team wasn't in the finals. And I think that's just disgusting, honestly, that can happen in the biggest tournament of the year, which is one of the only 2 tournaments we have with all teams there. So it feels bad to see that. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of things that need to happen. I also hate those best of 1 groups.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair enough too.
Like, we could run GSL groups. We could run best of 3 double elimination groups.
Yeah, but we can't, Monty, because we have to find out, first of all, in this next big upcoming game, whether or not this team from CIS region can beat this team from fucking Narnia. Did they know? Right now, onto the real tournament. That playing section is so garbage, it's unreal. And like, why are we watching those games? Some of those low quality games you watch all year. Like, I get that those teams need their own way into the tournament, but that doesn't have to be like first whole week of the fucking event, does it? Like, let's have real matches.
I just don't watch it, so whatever.
I don't either, but you know. Point is, it's taking up the space that we could have the real best of 3s in the group stage or something.
I don't know. What I wish were to happen with that play-in section is that I wish we would have put like the 4th best team from Europe in there, or like the 5th best team from Europe. Like, give a chance for major regions' worst teams to compete with the best teams from other regions, if that makes sense. So that way, we don't have to have guaranteed slots for certain teams. We just have a melee of, like, equivalent teams to see who can get in.
Because the thing is, like, we have the same thing in CS. Like, in theory, in CSGO, anyone could qualify to the major. It's just super unlikely. Obviously, like, you'll just get beaten by the good team. So I don't mind there being a way where some team from, like, some region we don't even know, like, or like a Vietnamese team, obviously, could do a super great job and get into the tournament and go. But that can't be like a main part of the viewing portion. That has to be some side thing where if they make it, it's like, oh, and we'll update you now on how they made it to the tournament. Like, you know, like that's some side shit. Like, who wants to watch these best of 1 group stage games? You want like a proper match. You wait all year long and then they play 2 best of 1s against the team from another region. That's not really that cool. And then if there's 1 best of 1 goes weird, it fucks the entire bracket up. Like, now this matchup's wrong, and then all the good teams are on one side of the bracket. Like, that's happened way too many times at Worlds as well. Like, the 3 best teams on one side of the bracket. So it's even worse than the scenario Sven's described. Like, now, like, the 3rd best team comes 8th or something, you know, like, the
also,
8th.
It also just fucks up the groups, right? In the first place. So you get teams that, you know, randomly get upset, and then they end up in 2nd place in their group. So they end up versus a 1st place team in the other group, even though they're capable of winning the entirety of Worlds. It's just a really bad system. I mean, everything, and the problem with Worlds is that it's so fixable. It's so fixable. All you have to do, it's so easy to say, we have 4 groups of 4 teams. Every match is best of 3 double elimination bracket. It's so easy to do that. It's so easy to say, the top 2 teams go to the bracket phase play, and we just add double elimination. I don't understand why these changes can't be made, because it's actually a very simple solution. With still 6, it's still the same number of teams. It's still the same way they're broken into groups. It's still the same number of teams in the playoffs. I can't even tell if it's just stubbornness at this point, where they just don't want to admit they're wrong, and they've been wrong for 10 fucking years.
Maybe next year. Maybe for 2021, Summoning Insight, we'll be discussing, Riot's finally brought in that double limb system for Worlds. What do we think about it? Same points made with more anger a year later.
I really will look forward to Riot's announcement when they inevitably do this, where they're like, and we thought, you know, after all these years of running Worlds, that it's important that we have a good final, even though we've literally been saying this since World started.
I think they should just let Lena decide the format for Worlds, because I mean, she can do everything else she fucking wants. Oh, sorry, is this thing still on? My bad. Oops. This is one of those moments.
Don't react.
Having built my brand up for 2 decades, not have to give a fuck about stuff like that. It's one of those moments. Yeah, I'll pat myself on the back. Well done. Worth it.
That's right.
Worth it to get to this point in my life.
That's right, Zven. Nisqy, just drink the juice as it comes
Right.
out.
Yeah.
Don't react. Don't react.
Everything's all right.
All right. Anything else that you guys want to talk about here? I know, Zven, you watched a little bit of Europe, or you talked to some of the players over there. I understand that the finals were the same morning you guys were playing your finals, so you probably haven't had a chance to really dive into those games. But was there anything that, like, were you surprised by Fnatic's performance? What did you see from them?
I think their performance wasn't super great, but they were also handicapped in draft coming into the games. I think in game 1, G2 had a really good idea of what they wanted to do. Like, the Gear Philios, they banned Thresh, which is an escape tool for Jaren, which they first picked on that side. They picked Skilling Champions, and then they didn't force Hildan to pick Tahm Kench, but Fnatic often picks like an escape tool for Reckless when he's playing against Jarvan, like Thresh, but he was banned, so he picks Tom, which is weak against range supports that they want to play. I talked to Perks earlier. He said to me in a DM, and he said we have to play heals and shields for Caps to prevent him from becoming Craps, and that's literally his words, right? And I thought it was so funny the way he put it. But I think the game plan they had coming into that series was so much better. And watching the game 1 and game 2 drafts, I don't even know how Fnatic can win these games. Like I'm watching game 2 right now on my screen, and they have like only low range carries, 3 big tanks, and they're playing against more DPS, better tanks, and call more Lulu. So I'm like, I'm not sure how they can win this game.
Also,
I don't even know.
Did you watch the games?
Yeah, I watched 1 game, I think, or 2 maybe. I
Can
saw
you
first game for sure, but
Can you tell me about the Azir Kassadin matchup, please?
I mean, to be honest, I think Kassadin is pretty good into Azir.
Okay.
If Kassadin is good into the enemy comp. And I felt like G2's comp that game was pretty good, I think. Because I think Lulu's pretty good into Kassadin, for example. And also I think Kog'Maw is like, can one-shot your Kassadin, I think, as well.
Yeah,
and they had like 2
Marcus.
tanks. And I think it was really hard to play Kassadin into that comp, but I think G2 forced Nemesis on champions that like were bad into their comp. For example, game 1, they just won to Azir, and then they knew that he'd pick Veigar, and then they picked like Kog, Lulu, 2 big tanks, hard engage or whatever. And yeah, I think it was just hard for him.
I think the worst draft was the one in game 3 where they kind of like copied, I don't know, but they picked the sack into the Ornn, like G did in game 2, and then they picked blind pick. I was like, whoa. I think Tom isn't such a bad blind pick as people say. If you have Senna or Vars, which are good like 1v2 AD carries that do well against range supports, but Braum is fucking useless. Even if you play against double AD carries and Ornn, I think Braum is such a dog champ. And you gave away like that Mickey can just pick like Janna or Lulu against your sack and your Braum. He will win lane, he will outscale you, he will stop your sack from playing the game with Lulu ult or with Janna Q or Janna ult, right? So it makes like no fucking sense that they pick Braum there. That was the one that I really like. I mean, like, whoa, you pick Braum sack here, even though like in the game 3, 4, 5 blue side draft, they picked sack Braum into a guy that has said I'm playing Lulu and Janna and Yumi only, and you still give me a perfect opportunity to counter your whole team comp with 1 pick.
Well, it's also that this
I'm
whole
like, whoa.
composition from G2 has such an insane amount of disengage. Like, you've got Trundle Pillar, like, you can get the escapes, monsoons coming down, that you're just going to be able to poke them forever and control chokes. Like, yeah. I don't... Fnatic can't engage. And that's ignoring the fact that Bwipo also, unfortunately, had a very poor laning phase where he was just 1v1 dying to Wonder. But how do you even teamfight if you're Fnatic? Because the Wombo combo that you want to have happen, or the way that you want to poke them out or hit them with bullet time, it just doesn't exist. Like, who are you going to engage upon here? Your Zac, if your Zac goes in, he's just going to get Trundle ulted and immediately explode.
I think the support picks were just really bad in the series in general. I think the game 3 draft, the 1-3 was really fine. Like Asir, MF Gragas is fine, right? They scale, they have good laning, and they have engaged here and there, they have good damage spread, whatever. But then they pick Braum for Hillsong. I'm like, what the fuck, I know Thresh is banned and Rakan's banned second phase too, but just gotta be something else you can pick here than Braum, right? But it just felt it was useless. And then sack pick into a guy that plays Janna and Lulu, it just seems like they're running themselves. They're running back a comp that they know they can't win. But yeah, I think in game 1 and game 2, I don't even know what I would do if I was Fnatic to win these games. It seems like the win con for G2 is so much easier to play as well. So yeah, I think they were massively outdrafted, but given that, they played okay. Yeah, I mean, game 1 was competitive for a long time until they lost eventually a team fight. So I guess they did okay.
It sounds like your series versus FlyQuest.
Yeah, I mean, true. Fly did well in game 1. They had a draft that we didn't know how to play against. That the Pantheon Global was something we haven't practiced against much, and we had Veigar, which is his pocket pick, but not something we practiced a lot with. So we had a hard time playing in the game, but we were still a better team. We win 1 team fight, the whole game is over, and I think FlyQuest put up a fight in game 1, but in game 2 and 3 they looked a bit lost. I think same for Fnatic.
I mean, I think also like when 2 teams are like really close to each other in like level and like skill wise, like draft becomes like 80% of the game, kind of, or at least that's what I think. Where like you're limited with what you've been given, kind of, And I
Yeah.
feel like G2 just had such a good draft
Yeah.
where they actually prepared of like in every scenario what Fnatic would do, and then they just kind of countered it really easily.
It felt like G2 have Fnatic downloaded in this
Yeah.
series. And if you have a draft that's worse than your opponents, you have to be a lot better to win, right? And Fnatic isn't a lot better than G2. They're probably just equal skill-wise or a little bit better, a little bit worse, whatever you want to say, given the day. So I feel like they're just nothing they can do in the series. I didn't watch the whole games like thoroughly as an analyst point of view,
Sure,
but I
yeah.
watched, from my phone while I was on my
Understandable.
morning walk. So yeah, we have our morning walk, so I was watching my phone like, oh, they're winning and losing. Oh, who's inting? Who's inting? So that's it, right? But yeah, from the outside point of view, it looked like Fnatic was kind of downloaded by G2 in a way, and they really had advantage coming into the games. But with that said, I don't think it's the coach's fault that you're outdrafted in a game. This is something that bugs me a lot. So I made a mistake recently. I went down the fucking wormhole of Reddit and Twitter comments, and
Oh god.
I
never do
noticed that, especially in the West, that coaches get blamed for bad drafts. But in all teams I played in, Origin, G2, TSM, now C9, the coaches aren't like forcing people to play certain champs they don't want to play. I get asked, do you want to play affiliates into this? I'm like, no, this is a bad matchup. I'll tell them, okay. If you do, I want to play this and this and this into this champion only, nothing else. And it's like, okay. And I never see my coach forcing anyone on my
Well-
team to play something they don't want to play. So I don't understand why certain teams' fans blame the coaches
coach,
for
yeah.
drafts.
So
I'm not
here-
talking about Mithy or grabs, but like just in general. What's the fucking logic here?
this League of Legends is a very complex game, and for the coaches, it is impossible for the coach to know the nuance of every matchup in every lane in the same way that it's impossible for you, Zven, to understand all of Licorice's matchups at that level, right? So
Yeah.
the thing that you're doing, and also there's a psychological component to it where even if I did understand that and I was coaching, I wouldn't necessarily force my player into that because they might play badly because they're not as good at that champ or they feel uncomfortable in that matchup. And it's possible to lose winning matchups if you don't know the matchup very well,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, perfect.
So
I mean, also, I think also one thing that people don't understand, I think, is like, for example, I don't know, if there's like someone picks Azir, someone plays like Veigar or whatever into it, right? And it looks good. And then another team picks Azir, and then in this case, for example, like TSM doesn't pick Veigar, and they pick like Maokai or whatever. Then, like the people are like, why the fuck is this coach picking Maokai instead of Veigar or whatever? When like other teams are doing so well with it, but like some players just don't play Central Champions,
sure,
for
of
example,
course, yeah.
or refuse to play the champion.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, the thing that bugs me is just that the coaches are getting blamed. But
Yeah.
like, let me take an example that's really easy to use. I don't think that Peter Sang, for example, is forcing Bjergsen to play Malcolm. I really doubt it. I don't think he's forcing the Kale, Sejuani, Malka draft they had one game in Spain Split. I don't think that's his fault. Or I don't think that coaches are forcing anything on their players in NA in general. I think coaches have preferences to play certain champions, but I don't think they will ever say like, no, you can't play the champion because I'm saying so. Pick this no matter what. That's not happening. I'm sure of it. So I think it's just weird that you see like the coaches being blamed for draft when in my teams it's like a player-driven thing where the coaches have input and they have like a say, right? Like if Reaper says, I think you should play this because he's a neutral opinion, an outside point of view that has a view from scrim. So he says, I think you play better on the champion in this matchup, so I think you should go with this. But he's not gonna force me to play it if I don't want to play it, right?
Right.
So,
And it's also the coach's job is to navigate options. So the coach has to have the big picture in mind in terms of usually the compositional strategy. And if you're a coach, what you want to do is you want to say, okay, well, the way that the chips have fallen so far, the way that the picks have fallen, I'm going to ask you, okay, we need to draft this position next, potentially. Or we're going to talk about, are we going to draft AD carry or jungler next at this pick? You have that conversation. You figure out where the players are comfortable. Once you decide where the players are comfortable, you pick that champ. And then your brain switches as a coach. You're like, okay, we have these champs now, so we can have these styles of compositions, and these are our win conditions. How can I flesh out this draft so that my players understand what that win condition is, and we can play around the strengths that we have in lane? So really what the coach is doing is creating a holistic picture of the composition while relying on the players for the information about what kind of matchups they think are good. So it is, I'm not going to say it's not entirely the coach's fault because sometimes you need to
sometimes it happens.
yeah, but
Yeah.
But
For the most part,
like,
I think
for
people
example,
do not understand how the draft works. They think that there's some sort of overlord, like you're saying, where the coach is like, you will do this. It's 100% my plan. Fuck you. But it's really like the coaching is more reactive. It's like the players are saying preferences and the coach is reacting to kind of like line everything up so it makes sense.
Put it this way, Zven basically admitted as much when he said that story about what Perk said in the DM. Like, the coach isn't picking the comp there. He's literally trying to figure out what weaknesses to shore up, how to not get in no bad situation. So the funny thing is, we'll never know this, but what I'd love to know is what the Mithy equivalent of that would be after this final, like what he was trying to do in that draft. I bet he has some similar version, like, fuck, I was trying to cover, like, this guy doesn't play this champion, or there's nothing, didn't have a counter here.
You mentioned Mithy because I talked to him too. Same day, we had a call on the same day, and we were talking about draft. He was like, "Yeah, G2 plays only Yumi and range supports, and I don't know what to do against it." And I was like, "I don't really want to help him because I'm at neutral point. I'm a friend of both Perks and Mithy, so I was telling him like, in any we just pick this, and no one picks range champions." And he's like, "Yeah, but if we only Yumi and shit, so I'm kind of fucked." And I was like, "Well, sucks for you." And he was like baffled what to do about it, and I don't want to leak too much, but yeah, he had a big issue with the range sports, and he knew it was a problem, but he didn't know what to do about it. And I'm sure they had a long meeting about what they play, and they decided together what to play and what to blind pick and what not to blind pick and stuff. And it's the same way it works in NA, where people have meetings for hours and hours about drafts, and we do that with Reaper too. We sit in the couch for an hour and a half. We talk about our bans, our first picks, our red side if we have that, and we talk about blind picks, what's not good, what's good, and be prepared to draft together. So all I'll say is that the coaches are always the only person that's at fault for bad drafts, and often the champions you pick are the ones you practice on in scrims the whole week. So it's not like anyone is forced to play something for the first time ever in their whole lives. So yeah, I just found that narrative that Western fans blame coaches for drafts, but they also praise coaches for drafts when it's often the team, the players, and the coach together that design a draft, not just the one person, right?
Of course.
Yeah, that's what I don't like.
That's
but
very
whatever.
fair. That's very fair.
Small sidetrack here, but whatever.
I mean, also, for example, like, we all remember like TSM Game 5, right? Where like Dark picked Sejuani, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And like I went back to it and like I saw like their episode or whatever, and then they all agreed that like Santorin doesn't play Olaf, and then that's why they picked Sejuani, right? Okay. And now people are like, "What the fuck, Peter Sang? Why did you pick Sejuani when Olaf is up? You don't think Santorin will play Olaf or whatever, And it's like, fuck, are you talking about,
By the way, Nisqy, you've got to be more responsible just saying phrases like, we all remember TSM Game 5 in this particular call. Like, I thought you were getting BM for a second, but it was actually meant this split. Like, holy shit, you could have called him out as your teammate. Jesus. We're going back to that.
Too soon.
I wondered where he was going with this angle.
1 year earlier.
Like, and then they picked that Israel champions for Sven. What were they doing?
I was like, just Game 5, fuck, it's coming.
Exactly.
But honestly, like, I learned to live with that and laugh at it. And honestly, like that final, sure, Game 5 fucking sucks, but I know, besides my int, Game 4 and 3 weren't like necessarily my fault if I lost those games.
Oh, of course not.
So I'm okay with that, and I can take blame. I don't care. But like the finals as a whole, sure, I got memed for a long time for doing the whole thing with Jensen, the post and stuff. But I think it's funny, and I don't regret it at all. But obviously, it sucks to lose that final, and I'll get flamed for years, I guess, for that. Whatever, I don't care.
You're already turning it around now, man.
Yeah,
you already
you already shit all over them, so I don't really think it matters anymore.
But like, I'll take it because I know it wasn't my fault we lost game 3 and 4, or like I played fine enough to win this series, and I'm okay with that, right? I'll take credit or responsibility rather for game 5, but yeah, people don't know that game 3 and game 4 matters as much as game 5. It's just a different number.
Yeah.
So I don't bite too much into it, and I'm okay with my teammates me nowadays, and we all banter in this team, and I flame Nisqy, he flames me back, and it's cool, So I can take it.
I just wish that we would have had a LAN so you could do some more shit on stage that we would find amusing. I think you should keep it up, man. That's great.
Honestly, that thing I did was I did it because my teammates were like saying it would be fine to do it. It wasn't even my idea. I think it was BB's idea to make fun of Jensen because Riot wanted to have Bjergsen and Doublelift in front of each other instead of me and Doublelift, which is the normal thing. So I wanted to make fun of Riot Games for doing that. And then he was a little less tall than me. So I thought, why not make fun of this guy? And then I did it, and my teammates were so much more comfortable on stage after I did this, and they were like laughing, having a good time. And before they were like a little bit nervous maybe, and I felt like it was a good like mood brightener or whatever you want to call it. So
Yeah.
I would do it again 10 times, and I thought it was fucking funny. I still think it's funny. Sucks that Team Liquid made meme videos on YouTube about me and flame me after they won and stuff like that. Like Doublelift made a fucking YouTube video about it, and Jensen flamed me afterwards and all that kind of stuff. Like it's kind of lame, but it's whatever, right? I'll
They
take
got
it.
this in the
That's what.
end.
Yeah, that's what you deserve after doing
That's
this
right.
thing in front of him, right? Whatever, right? It
You know,
doesn't really matter.
just now that Doublelift's going to be on TSM, just go wreck him next split, and then do it again, and then have Cloud9 edit a meme video about you doing it to him. Just, the cycle can continue, man. We can keep doing this.
I mean, I thought it was funny, and I'll always remember it as a good thing in my career. And if I could go back, I would do it again, even if I knew the result of the series. I thought it was just fucking funny, and I had a good time in that series despite losing and making that one mistake, which is kind of karma in a way, because I made fun of Jensen for the same thing in the champs like with the echo hovers. So whatever, I deserve it. It's just funny to me now.
My favorite thing that's been going on has been now that you have like the emotes in game, and you can bring up the like team logos, and people are like spamming like FPX at G2 and stuff like that. I'm loving this. I think it's absolutely hilarious. I'm so glad that they put this in the game, because it added a lot of flavor, I think, especially in the playoffs.
The one thing is, though, I don't know if you saw this, Monty, when that fucking guy in the EU playoffs flashed that FPX logo and that medic guy just went mental. Like,
oh, yeah.
That was actually a bit cringy, I can't lie. Like, I don't know why he got so triggered by that. It was ridiculous.
He got triggered by it? I just would have started laughing.
He was going like, you haven't earned the right to show that fucking emote. Like, he was actually going off on it. He was getting fine with it. Because they were like memeing him with it, But I thought it was funny anyway. I thought it was good.
Wow.
It was like Destiny, I think, from OG in the game against G2. It was funny, I thought.
Okay.
Yeah, I love the emotes. I think they're a great addition. We had them back in 15 Worlds, but that was only your own team's flare. But now you can have like all the emotes. Like,
I remember that. That was great. But now you can have the penguin dab.
Let's be real as well. Even
though
though they're going to claim at Riot Games that the real reason for the emote is to show show the team that you're cheering for. Let's be real. The real reason everyone who's a pro liked it is because you could just low-key BM people. With that
of course.
From the second it was introduced, that was the whole reason we were all loving it. It was like, this is brilliant. Like, I would be using that FPX thing all the time if I was playing G2. It's like the only way you can actually.
The only thing is
a little bit in it. Like, you can't really trash talk about anything else.
In game, there's an option to disable enemy emotes, and I do that personally because
that shouldn't be allowed. Come on.
Yeah, it should be allowed. But I can't handle my opponents flashing me with something that I lost to or whatever, so I have to disable it. But I will still use my Misfits emote and my G2 emote in 2017 to remind Power Evil and Ignar of what happened to them back then in the final.
Yep.
And I'll still have my well played emote when I get first blood and my GG when I get an ace. I thought it was hilarious to set up my emote wheel before. Imagine I go on stage and I see fucking Wild Turtle has an Estel emote. I'll be triggered, I can't focus. That happens to me, right? So I must have emotes disabled, so I can only have my own emotes. So it's like that one guy who trash talks in all chat and then he mutes everyone afterwards. It's
like, him, right? That's you.
I like that you know that about yourself, but you still do it anyway. This is.
Oh no, he's got the self-awareness. He just hasn't overcome the bad problem.
It's like I also can't be ready, because I get triggered by it, and I have my Twitter in this one mode where I can only see people that are followed by me, because I'm too fucking sensitive, right? I'm triggered by this, so I have to lock it out, right? So yeah, I'm that guy. But I think I saw Power Evil reacting to my emote in game 2 when we were winning the game. I saw like a clip of him laughing at it in his chair, and I thought it was so hilarious that he didn't have the emotes off. And I wonder what he was thinking while seeing that his emote followed by the G2 emote, and he made the connection between it. It's just funny to me.
I think this has been such a sick addition to League of Legends. I'm just glad that slowly over time that people are pulling the stick out of their ass about like banter and trash talk in esports, because it's been a long time coming. And I mean, even in regular sports too, like the NFL allows people to celebrate as a team now. I'm not sure what's been changing, but across the board, esports sports, it seems like things are getting a lot more fun when it comes to the banter that's allowed during the games itself, which I think is just great.
I mean, I think it's good for everyone, to be honest. Or else it's not fun when like someone says, "Oh, I hope we win against this team, even though they're better than us." I'd rather see like Man, the dog shit will storm them, and then you get shit on, and then it's even more funny, you know.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I love the really serious ones, like the upset Attila thing that was going on for a while. Like,
Oh yeah.
this is the rivalry. I'm just fucking better than him. He's fucking shit. You know, I like that, seeing that kind of like unfiltered kind of stuff. But I think there's room for both. So I like that kind of segment they had in the EU last year, I think it was, when they were both playing and they had like a rivalry or whatever. And Upset beat him and said, "There's no rivalry. I'm better. Fuck this guy." I thought that was really cool and entertaining. And it makes the match more hype, right? So
I think they need to once you get into this rhythm, you guys need to bring back the StarCraft ceremonies where people would go completely like crazy with props and shit on stage to like BM their opponents before or after matches, because that was really like the peak esports banter and entertainment that we've seen. I would love to bring that a little bit back. It's not enough to like flash the FPX in game. When you win, you literally have to just like stand up and like wave like an FPX sign at them as well. You got to double down.
yeah, I mean, I think it's cool when people do that kind of stuff. And I remember Monte was telling me I should bring my Play of the Week statue on stage to BM my opponents, like wave it around a little bit. And
I told you to do something very inappropriate with it, but
yeah, you did. Very inappropriate. But
it would have been funny. It would have been funny.
It would have been funny. I brought it on stage. I didn't do it, that one thing you mentioned, but I think those kind of things are cool, and they add flair to the games, and they add like a little more hype around the matches. And sure, you get flamed if you lose, whatever. If you win, it looks cool. Like, remember Wonder's tweet this week about his
the WoW raid or whatever.
Wow. Yeah.
Yes, that was so good.
You share like this with the trophy afterwards. It's that simple, you know. Like, what a fucking boss, you know. Just sitting there in his chair with the trophy in his fucking lap and.
Oh, swagging for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Like the fucking message sent is just that you're alpha as fuck, right? And I think that's so funny seeing these kind of people. And Wonder doesn't care, you know. He loses, whatever. Who cares? And he wins. He looks like a fucking boss. And I think that's the way you do things. And I wish I was a little less of a pussy so I could do that kind of things too, but.
It's all right. Yeah. See, this win will power you up. You were traumatized because you'd been stuck in NA without that LCS title that you came for years. You're, tossed off of TSM, but now you're incredibly dominant. So this is where it starts. This is where the confidence and the BM train starts. So we can expect to see more of that later this year, I'm sure. I'll help you. If you want ideas, I'll come up with ideas for you. Not inappropriate ones like that other one.
Okay.
Appropriate ones.
All right.
The other one was a joke. That will not
be sure about that
publicly.
Okay.
Well, I would have done it, but you shouldn't.
To be fair, you have no filter.
That was something I would have done, but not necessarily something I would recommend for everybody. But we can find ones that are good for you. Anyway, I think that should do it for us. I don't want to take any more of your guys' time. Enjoy. You have any parting questions, Thorin?
No, I think we've got a lot of info. I mean, I just enjoy the fact that this was actually a more dominant performance over the other LCS teams with all the shit they revealed about how bad they all in practice than the actual split was. In many ways, this was a 3-0 this episode, boys. All the other teams, they're wrecked. We give props to FlyQuest. They're the actual owning team that was willing to turn up and take their beatings like men, and as a result, they came second. Congrats.
There are a lot of teams that don't have bad ethics, but it's just FlyQuest is a counter partner of ours. We scrim them a lot, and yeah, I enjoyed playing with against them in scrims, and yeah, they were nice to scrim. They have good ethics, not late. Yeah, I respect that a lot.
Good. Shout out to FlyQuest. Shout out to good scrim partners. Shout out to AT&T for bringing us this great show. Here's what I'm going to try. I'm going to call them out. You ready? So Papa Smithy and Deficio have told me that they would be on the show after the season ends. So I would love to do a show talking about GMing next week in the absence of any other kinds of content. So hopefully we can get them on, encourage them to come on publicly because they've been dodging, they've been dodging, trying to avoid questions about 100 Thieves and Origin, but the dodging can only happen for so long. So that's what I would like to do while we have some time off to just discuss GMing and sort of the state of that job and their transition from casting in general. Hopefully we'll be able to do that, and we'll see you next week. So thank you very much for coming. See you then.